Chapter 98. P.S. Hello everyone, I'm Auto Update. Uncle Neo is either drinking tea with a girl or preparing for his exams. He said to remember to recommend him. The layman of the Chuanjin sect naturally did not know that in the world of martial arts, there was an order of seniority. As a rare genius in the world of martial arts, Wang Yu's seniority was very high. He was even on par with his father's senior and junior brothers. Unlike Chuanjin, who was curious about the seniority in the Kung Fu circle, all the players inside and outside of Yuhuicheng were so shocked by the Wang brothers that they didn't know how to express their current feelings. These two brothers, one tall and one short, looked exactly the same. From afar, they looked like father and son. When the other players saw the guild leader of the 10,000 people who was invincible being beaten up by Wang Yu, they couldn't even describe how they felt, especially the people from Blood Alliance. They were old rivals of Chuanjin, and to move unhindered for so long. When they saw this scene, they didn't know if they should be happy or sad. They were happy because the pretentious evildoers run wild had been subdued. They were sad because the person who subdued the pretentious guy was the person they hated the most. Tell them to retreat. Look at what you've done. It's the new year, and you're not peaceful at all. Wang Yu waved his hand and scolded evildoers run wild. Evildoers run wild's face was dark. He thought to himself, "You're the one who caused this." But he didn't dare to offend his brother. He sent a message in the guild helplessly. "Retreat, retreat. We met someone we can't afford to offend. The brothers who died today will all be compensated." Seeing how familiar the two were, the people to move unhindered had already guessed the truth. When they received evildoers run wild's order, they put away their weapons and walked into the city. Yu Huicheng's other guild players could only watch helplessly, not daring to make a move. After all, they were at a disadvantage just now. To move unhindered and stop attacking first. If they continued to look for trouble, they would be typical brainless idiots. To move unhindered, they would not only offend God Iron Ox, but also not give face to God Iron Ox. At that time, one evildoer's run wild would be more than enough to deal with. Not to mention the even more powerful Iron Ox. No one dared to imagine that scene. Seeing this scene, 2012 and Blood Red War flag felt as if there was a ball of cotton stuffed in their hearts. They felt suffocated, but they could not say anything. Chuanjin had really given them a big slap in the face this time. These two brothers were still fighting over who was the #1 guild in Yuhuicheng, but in the end, all of Yu Huicheng's guilds combined couldn't defeat them. To move unhindered. To move unhindered, Boss was stepped on and humiliated by Chuanjin, but he didn't dare to let out a fart. Who was stronger and who was inferior? Who was #1 in the world? It was clear at a glance. Was there need to fight? The two pitiful fellows suddenly felt that they were extremely childish. Wu Ji turned his head and looked at 2012 and Blood Red War flag. The two of them sneered, revealing a meaningful smile. A wave of coldness shot from their hearts straight to their heads. Yu Huicheng once again became the headline of rebirth on the forum. Chuanjin, to move unhindered, and the 10,000-man battle became the topic of discussion in the forum. This Yu Huicheng never had a moment of peace. The first boss kill, the defense of the encampment, it was all done by Yu Huicheng's people. This time, they even created a city-wide PK. There was also that Chuanjin. They were always in the limelight. They were really everywhere, causing chaos wherever they went. After the new players came online, they started to discuss the forum. To move unhindered, do you know? Yeah, that hoodlum guild that occupied the mining area. Don't provoke them. I heard that their guild has more people than a main city. Bullsh *T. You don't know, right? To move unhindered people were defeated. Is that true? Who would do that? It's true. To move unhindered tens of thousands of players to provoke Yuhuicheng. They were defeated by 8 people from Chuanjin. Our demon rampage was stripped of his pants and hung at the city gate by Chuanjin's people and spanked on his butt. F***CK. Isn't this related to pornography? The system doesn't care? The more the story spread, the more ridiculous it became. In the end, it was said that Wang Yu was possessed by his second master Wang Yu, third master Zhang, and Zhao Zilong. He single-handedly slaughtered his way through the players of reigning the world and captured their leader, the evildoer Rampage. Then, he chased away tens of thousands of enemies and stripped the evildoer Rampage of all his equipment in public. Chuanjin had a bad reputation because of their shamelessness. To move unhindered and occupy the mining area was even worse. In comparison, people were more willing to believe that this was true. At the same time, in Yu Huiqing's Han's Tavern, you're quite successful at messing around. You actually got so many people to be your underlings. Wang Yu said with a smile as he patted evildoer's Run Wild's shoulder. Wang Yu knew his younger brother the best. His younger brother had been rebellious since he was young. He didn't practice martial arts properly and liked to do trendy things originally. The Wang family was very old-fashioned. If Wang Yu dared to mess around, he would have been treated as an unfilial son and beaten to death. However, the old man loved the young. Not only did old Wang not control his misdeeds, he even allowed him to do as he pleased. Wang Yu sometimes felt that it was unfair and had a conflict with his father. Old Wang's words made Wang Yu choke. You're the eldest. In the future, you'll be challenging the whole family. If you're like him, the Wang family will be ruined. Have you seen your fourth uncle and second uncle's children? They've been thrown out to do business. Do you want that too? From then on, Wang Yu didn't dare to ask about it anymore. Hearing his older brother praise him, evildoer's Run Wild said modestly, "You flatter me. I'm just messing around and earning some money to spend." Although he said this, evildoer's Run Wild's eyes were full of pride. It was clear that he had earned a lot from monopolizing the mining area. Does your family lack that bit of money? Wang Yu asked. Wang Laosan supports it. Evildoers Run Wild said. Oh. Wang Yu fell silent. In the Wang family, being thrown out to do business was the treatment of a second son. Immediately after, Wang Yu comforted his younger brother. Not bad, not bad. At least you're doing better than me. Look at our guild. We only have a few people. Moreover, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. All of them are as despicable and shameless as the guild leader. I'm the only honest person. F***CK. Shameless. The Chuanjin people glared at Wang Yu and bared their teeth. Evildoers Run Wild looked at the Chuanjin people and smiled. Boss, don't pretend. Your friends are very strong. They're the first people who've made me suffer losses since I entered the game. In any case, I can't find anyone in my guild who can compare to them. Brother Nyoer's words are still pleasant to listen to. The Chuanjin people were very pleased with evildoers Run Wild's words. To place one's pride, this kid even forgot that he was stomped to death by evildoers Run Wild. He leaned forward and said, Uncle Nyoer, teach me some martial arts. Your character is much better than Uncle Nyoer's. F***CK? Wang Yu was depressed. This little brat, he had just said something nice, and now he went back on his words. Evildoers Run Wild laughed. Ha, little friend, there's no better master in this world than my brother. You actually look down on him. I'm impressed. Also, you can call me Demon or Ah-Fei. Don't call me Nyoer. It sounds like a F***King hooligan. Evildoers Run Wild added. Ah-Fei, isn't that still a hooligan? Everyone was speechless. By the way, boss, are you still with that woman? Evildoers Run Wild picked up a glass of wine and asked Wang Yu. Wang Yu slapped the back of evildoers Run Wild's head and said angrily, What woman? That's your sister-in-law. We're married. Married? Evildoers Run Wild was shocked. When? About half a year, Wang Yu said with a smile, his face brimming with happiness. Fine, you're ruthless. You didn't bring sister-in-law home for Chinese New Year. Evildoers Run Wild gave him a thumbs up. Wang Yu smiled bitterly. I'm not going back. Tell old Wang to stop doing business and focus on practicing martial arts. The Wang family will depend on you in the future. F***CK. That's not very kind of you. You've cheated me for 20 years, and now you're throwing this mess to me? Isn't it just going home? What's the big deal? Evildoers Run Wild said unhappily. Will they tolerate her? This. Evildoers Run Wild scratched the back of his head and said, I think it's better to get married with someone of equal status. Wang Yu's face started to turn hostile. Evildoers Run Wild immediately changed his words. Of course, old Wang is just being stubborn. Don't take it to heart. In 2 years, when my eldest nephew is born, he'll be so happy that his molars will pop out. Even if you marry a sow, he'll treat it like a benefactor. Are you asking for a beating again, kid? Wang Yu flashed his palm. Evildoers Run Wild immediately said solemnly, I'm serious. Don't you know old Wang's temper? Let's talk about it in 2 years. When you go back, don't ever tell anyone that you met me, okay? Chapter 99. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. P.S. Good weekend, everyone. I'm updating automatically. Uncle Neo went out and told me to remind everyone to vote. What level are you? After chatting for a while, Wang Yu threw out the most common question in the game. I haven't played for a long time. I'm only level 17. Evildoers Run Wild said. Level 17? Everyone in Xuanzhen was stunned. People who played Kung Fu were all crazy. The mainstream players were level 15, and Xuanzhen was already at the top of the leaderboards. Apart from Wang Yu, who was level 19, the highest ranked player, Chun Xiang, was only level 18. Evildoers Run Wild hadn't played for a long time, but he was already level 17. It was really infuriating to compare oneself to others. Wang Yu pulled up the leaderboards and wondered, You're not on the leaderboards, Evildoers Run Wild said. I'm in the 9th server, and you guys are in the 7th server. Of course I'm not on the leaderboards. What do you mean? Wang Yu didn't understand. Wuji explained, Rebirth server has a total of 300 main cities and 15 large regions. We're in the 7th server, East China, and Evildoers are in the 9th server, North China. Different regions aren't ranked together. So that's how it is. Wang Yu finally understood. Then you're leveling pretty fast. Wang Yu said. He played the game from morning to night, and he only reached level 19 after killing a few bosses. He knew that leveling in the game wasn't easy. Evildoers Run Wild said, We have a lot of people, and no one dares to kill steal from us. F***CK. Everyone couldn't help but sigh. Evildoers Run Wild lived up to his name. The two brothers' personalities were so different. Uncle Ah Fei, which city are you in? Let's go and bask in your glory? The place one's pride asked. Sky Dragon City. If everyone wants to go, I'll have them draw a large leveling area for you. Evildoers Run Wild said with a smile. Oldly exclaimed, TSK, TSK, look at how generous the ladyboy is. Awesome. You should learn from him. He's not even willing to give me a broken spear. All right, since I have nothing to do in the afternoon, let's go and take a look. Wang Yu said, now that he had 3 times the EXP and 3 times the drop rate, having a quiet place to farm monsters was incredibly good. Yu Huiqing's Nian boss had already been killed, and if he encountered it in Sky Dragon City, he would have made a fortune. I have no objections. I have no objections either. After all, the demon Hung Xing and Wang Yu were blood-related brothers. If Wang Yu didn't go, these self-proclaimed experts naturally wouldn't be as shameless as Ming Do, who didn't even care about the self-esteem of experts. At this moment, seeing that Wang Yu had agreed, the others had nothing else to say. Hence, they all agreed. There were no teleportation points between regions. From Yu Huicheng to Sky Dragon City, they had to take an airship. It was his first time taking such a large vehicle. Wang Yu exclaimed, F***CK, this thing can fly? It won't crash, right? Everyone's faces darkened. No one will think you're mute if you don't speak. Wang Yu was still curious as he pointed at the propeller. There's no gasoline in the game, but this thing spins so fast. What's the theory behind it? This guy was actually trying to reason with the system. Wuji explained, Do you know about magic crystal drive? It's natural and harmless, and it protects the atmosphere. Does this belong to the field of enchantment? Wang Yu asked again. Strictly speaking, it belongs to engineering. The knowledgeable famous Sword Daoshua said, There's an old game called World of Warcraft. There's engineering in that game, and you can build aircrafts. F***CK. Doesn't that mean that I'm the only one who can do this in the game? Wang Yu asked in surprise. Your half-baked engineering can only do this. Dusei said as he pointed at the propellers. Back in World of Warcraft, the most awesome engineer had only been able to build a small plane as a mount. Do you want to build an airship with those two skills? That's not bad. I'm referring to the bearings inside. Wang Yu was speechless. Fortunately, the two regions weren't far apart, and it was only a 10-minute journey. In this 10-minute journey, everyone was annoyed by Wang Yu, the game's noob. Even evildoers Run Wild, who had always been proud of his brother, felt a little embarrassed. In the background story of Rebirth, Sky Dragon City was at the edge of the continent, facing the sea on 3 sides. The legendary Dragon Island was in Sky Dragon City. Therefore, other than young dragons, most of the monsters in this main city were humanoid monsters called dragon slayers. Dragons were very powerful existences in both Eastern and Western myths. In the game setting, the Dragon Island was filled with level 200 ultimate monsters. The legendary Holy Dragon Morpheus and the demonic Dragon Callus were both born in Sky Dragon City. Because of this, Sky Dragon City was a place of honor and glory. The players who were obsessed with online novels like picking up dragon eggs all came here to try their luck, but the result was obvious. The Dragon Slayer Mage on Dragon Blood Plains was a level 25 monster with thin skin, low HP, and low defense. It was the perfect place for the experts of Chuanjin to level up. After arriving at Sky Dragon City, evildoers Run Wild immediately ordered his guild members to clear the area. Seeing evildoers Run Wild ordering people around like a boss, Wuji was extremely envious. In Chuanjin, Wuji had no prestige at all. Even a brat like to place one's pride would throw a tantrum at him. After evildoers Run Wild had someone draw a leveling area for Chuanjin, he went offline, leaving only 2 members to act as guides for Chuanjin. The 2 were a warrior and a mage. The warrior was called I Want to Stab You, while the mage was called a Small Stick. Both of their names were wretched, and they were even more wretched. Their temperament coincided with that of Chuanjin. Dragon Slayer Mage, 25, HP, 5,000 MP, 10,000 skills. Magic Break. Lightning Fall Magic Break was a passive skill that ignored 60% of magic resistance. Lightning Fall was the same as normal lightning, but with higher attack. This was the first time that the people from the Quan Jun sect were leveling together. However, these people were very skilled with each other, so it was very easy for them to kill monsters. I really want to stab you, and a little stick followed behind them to gain experience. Seeing that the president's friends were so awesome, the flattery they received made the people from the Quan Jun sect feel like dying. The 10 of them walked and farmed at the same time. Soon, they arrived at the edge of the Dragon Slayer Mage's spawn area. Right in front of them, a large group of people surrounded a golden monster and chased it with all their might. When they saw it, they became excited. Damn, what kind of luck was this? They had just arrived at Sky Dragon City, and they were already treated like this. Sky Dragon City was too polite to their guests. The group of people not far away was fighting the Yin boss. If they encountered the boss, they would naturally have to find a reason to snatch it. If they did not have a reason, they would have to convince themselves to snatch it. Otherwise, would they still be considered as members of Chuanjin? Thinking of this, Wuji rolled up his sleeves, waved his hand, and said, "Let's go and take a look. See if they need help." However, before Wuji could take a step forward, a small stick quickly stopped the 8 of them. He looked at the Yin boss enviously and said, "Everyone, turn back. We've crossed the boundary in front." Wuji waved his hand and said, "It's okay. We're quite strong. We can hold on." "I want to stab you," said with some difficulty. "Let's go back. To move unhindered territory is not in front of us." Wuji laughed and said, "What's there to be afraid of? Who would dare to provoke you? You have 20,000 people. If they really provoke us, we're not afraid. The main thing is that those guys don't bite and are disgusting." "I want to stab you," said. "Why do you say that?" Wuji asked curiously. A small stick said, "Don't mention it. They're also a big guild, and they have quite a lot of people. However, they are extremely shameless. They never fight us head-on. When they see that we have a lot of people, they go offline. When we disperse, they come out again to cause trouble. Our guild relies on the game to earn money. No one wants to waste time with them." When the Chuanjin people heard this, they fell into deep thought. Why does the behavior of these people sound so familiar? He's scolding us indirectly. Chapter 100. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. What familiar lines! Hearing this voice, the people of the Quanjin sect were moved to tears. Wasn't this what they often said to others? They didn't expect that there would be a group of like-minded people living in the distant Heavenly Dragon City. The people of Qianjin looked toward the voice and saw a group of players walking over. Seeing the group of people walking over, a stick's expression changed. It's by Yunsheng. Brother Wuji, you guys go first. We'll take care of this. If you guys suffer any losses, we won't be able to explain it to the boss. Wuji laughed. Don't worry. These people won't be able to hurt us. I'm talking about you guys. Can't you see the boundary flag? Why are you still walking forward? Have you forgotten about the agreement? Bai Yunsheng had already walked in front of them. He pointed at a small stick and wanted to stab them. There were 8 people in Bai Yunsheng's group. All of them were fully equipped with steel and bronze equipment. They did not look weak. Behind them, 17 to 18 players were focused on killing the Yin boss. It had to be known that before the people of the Qianjin sect discovered Firecracker's secret, it was quite difficult for them to fight the boss. However, these people advanced and retreated in an orderly manner. They were obviously elite experts. Seeing this, the people of Qianjin thought, this guild is quite strong. To move, unhindered people could not do anything to them. Thinking of this, the people of Qianjin glanced at the badge on by Yunsheng's chest. Seeing the badge on by Yunsheng's chest, the people of Qianjin were happy. No wonder their auras were so similar. They had met an old acquaintance of the guild. Mingdu laughed. Haha, I was wondering why Gundog suddenly disappeared from the Server 7 leaderboard. So he came to Sky Dragon City. With his intelligence, he wants to pick up a dragon's egg? Chun Xiang also laughed. Haven't you heard of the idiot's luck? Who knows, Achong might really be lucky. Who is Achong? Wang Yu and Yin Lao Air asked curiously. To place one's pride said, Dugu Jiu Qiang, the retribution paladin who used to be on the Server 7 leaderboard. Are you old acquaintances? Familiar. As familiar as you can be. Bao San squinted his eyes and smiled with a murderous look. Meeting an old friend in a foreign land. Just nice. Let's help him kill the Yin beast and get some points. Yin Lao Air said happily. Ming Jian Daoshua smiled and said, It's true that I met an old friend in a foreign land, but this old friend has a grudge against me. You haven't heard of Dugu Jiu Qiang. What about White Horse and Silver Spear? White Horse and Silver Spear. The boss of the apocalypse was actually that group of scum. No wonder the name sounded so familiar. When Yin Lao Air heard White Horse and Silver Spear, he immediately understood. The apocalypse was also a famous big guild. What was even more famous was that this guild's people had especially vile personalities. Stealing kills was a common occurrence, but they were too powerful, so no one dared to provoke them. When Yin Lao Air was in the novice village, he had suffered from their anger. As a veteran player, since Yin Lao Air knew of Qianjin, he naturally knew of Qianjin's feud, the apocalypse. In the end, the reason why Qianjin was so famous was mostly because of their perseverance in causing trouble in the apocalypse, which was why people remembered them. After all, there were only 6 of them, and they were all wanted by the apocalypse in every game. Moreover, they could strut around in the streets, which made it hard for people not to remember them. Wang Yu frowned and said, Apocalypse. I think I've heard this name somewhere before. Of course I've heard of it. Did you forget that the group of people we met in the woods were from the apocalypse? Famous Sword Dao Shui said. Oh, them. Wang Yu thought of Light Brother, that big bald head. He was too unique. The others were all guessing, oh, Iron Ox and Dao Shui both went through the woods, and they were caught. This is big news. This is great. Wang Yu suddenly said. What's so good about meeting an old enemy? Yin Lao Air asked curiously. Wang Yu said, Originally, I was still worried about you guys stealing the boss, but this time I don't. Everyone was speechless. While the people from Qianjin were chatting in the guild channel, really want to stab the two of them had already started arguing with Bai Yunsheng, and it looked like they were about to start a fight. Wuji walked over with a smile and asked Bai Yunsheng, This area belongs to the apocalypse? That's right. Bai Yunsheng said arrogantly. Do you have a problem with that? Hee hee. From today onwards, This place belongs to us, Chuanjin. You have no problem with that, right? Wu Ji's tone was even more arrogant than Bai Yunqing's. Quan Chuanjin? Bai Yunsheng heard Wu Ji's words and immediately lowered his head. The yin-yang symbol on Wu Ji's chest was especially eye-catching. Boss, there are people from Chuanjin. After seeing Wu Ji's badge, Bai Yunsheng immediately notified Dugu Jiuqiang in the guild channel. Dugu Jiuqiang was fighting the Nian boss, and when he heard the news, he was almost trampled to death by Nian. Why did those shameless bastards come to Sky Dragon City? Dugu Jiuqiang asked. I'm not sure. I think they came with someone to move unhindered. Dugu Jiuqiang said gloomily, no way. Didn't they just fight to the death with someone to move unhindered? They're at the border. I recognize their badge. Bai Yinsheng said. Dugu Jiuqiang immediately turned to look at the border flag and saw Wu Ji waving at him. Ah Chang, long time no see. F***CK. These bastards are definitely here to steal the boss. Stop them. Everyone else retreat. In the game, it was natural for Chuanjin to steal the boss of World Apocalypse. Not only did Chuanjin think so, but the people of World Apocalypse thought so as well. Upon receiving Dugu Jiuqiang's order, Bai Yunsheng and the rest swung their swords without hesitation. Bai Yunsheng and the rest were only second-rate players in World Apocalypse. How could they be a match for Chuanjin and the rest? After one round, they were wiped out. Even Dugu Jiuqiang and the rest had not finished fighting. After Chuanjin and the rest killed Bai Yunsheng, they did not stop and went to Dugu Jiuqiang's side. Wu Ji smiled. Ah Chang, are you still fighting? Ha! Brother Chun, say hello to our old friends. Chun Xiang gave a slight smile and waved his hand, sending out a distortion that froze Apocalypse's people. These people had been trying to escape from the battle and were being chased by the Nian. Now that they were frozen by Chun Xiang, how could they have a good time? They treated it as if they had been turned into light by the Nian. Wu Ji dog, fuck you. Dugu Jiuqiang was furious. Ah Chang, your attitude is not friendly. Let's all say hello. Wu Ji laughed shamelessly. Other than the two newcomers, Wang Yu and Yin Lauer, the others were all veterans of the Quanjin sect. They had been opposing the people of the Apocalypse for a long time, and they had enough experience and interest in messing up the Apocalypse. Everyone took action and blocked the people from Apocalypse World. With the help of the Yin Beast Boss, another 6 people from Apocalypse World were instantly killed. Run in the opposite direction. Dugu Jiuqiang gave the order and turned around, charging to the other side. Who would have thought that before they could run far, Yin fell from the sky, right in the middle of the group. Chapter 101. P.S. I'm so tired today. Tomorrow will be the 3rd update. Ask for recommendations. The players from Apocalypse were wiped out in an instant. A small rod, and I really want to stab you, were shocked. A small rod exclaimed, F***CK, it can't be. That was an elite group personally led by Dugu Jiuqiang. They were wiped out just like that. The boss's friends are all experts. Yeah, did you see that guy with the stick? Did you see him throw the boss out? Comparing a rod to his is like comparing a fire stick to a golden cudgel. I really want to stab, he said. The visual impact of Wang Yu's rod on the boss was too strong. It was hard for most people to accept if they weren't mentally prepared. Of course, didn't you see that he looks exactly like the boss? They must be brothers. The boss is already so strong. That person can't be much weaker than the boss. Why do I feel like he's stronger than the boss? I really want to stab, he said honestly. But the boss pays us inside the resurrection point of Sky Dragon City. Dugu Jiuqiang was so angry that his eyes were about to pop out. F***CK. I was tricked by those bastards again. They even stole the boss. No, I can't take this lying down. Let's go back. Ugh, boss, we can't just go back like this. Light Brother said. Brother Guang knew very well how powerful Wang Yu was. At this time, with the help of the Chuanjin sect / group of female, male experts, casually rushing back would only give away another 10% experience. That's right. The military advisor, Merciless Hands, also said the people from the Chuanjin sect are despicable. Can't you see that they're in cahoots with reigning the world? They must be lying in ambush. Dugu Jiuqiang said, to move unhindered. They're just a group of professional mining players. What's the use of having more people? They'll still be beaten up. Merciless Beggar said, right now, everyone's levels are low, and their professions haven't taken shape yet. Numbers is the guild's biggest advantage. Besides, those people from the Chuanjin sect aren't easy to deal with. Do you see the Grandmaster of Combat in their team, called Steelbull? I've heard from the people of Reigning the World that he's the elder brother of the evildoer Hung Xing. His strength is even stronger than the evildoer Hung Xing, and ordinary people can't deal with him. Hearing Merciless Beggar's words, Dugu Jiuqiang suddenly thought of Evildoers Run Wild. Ever since Evildoers Run Wild moved into Skydragon City, he had suppressed many other guilds. None of them dared to fight back because of Evildoers Run Wild's strength. Dugu Jiuqiang had seen Evildoers Run Wild's strength with his own eyes. He could easily take on 10 or 20 people. Now, there was a guy who was even stronger than Evildoers Run Wild, and he was his enemy. This made Dugu Jiuqiang's heart palpitate. Then what should we do? Dugu Jiuqiang said gloomily. Are we just going to let this go? How can we just let this go? Since they like to steal bosses, we'll give them another one. But we need Westgate to do this. Westgate? You mean to let him lure the boss on Dragonblood Plateau? Dugu Jiuqiang said. That's right. I don't believe they can defeat that scary guy. Dugu Jiuqiang clapped his hands and laughed. Good. Not bad. You're cunning enough. I like it. Shimin Yi Tian's original name was Shimin Yi Tian. He was an archer in the post-apocalyptic world. This person's skills were mediocre, and his equipment was average. He should have been an unremarkable small character, but this fellow had a particularly outstanding attribute, and that was agility. Archers were the class with the highest agility growth in Rebirth. This kid had added all of his agility, and he had completed a hidden quest to obtain a pair of exquisite shoes. As a result, this kid's speed was second to none in Skydragon City, or even in the entire game. If it wasn't for him kiting the Nian boss from a distance, the others wouldn't have had it so easy. If it wasn't for Spring Sword Distortion, he wouldn't have lured the Nian away, and the people from Skydragon City wouldn't have been wiped out before they could escape the battle. If he lured that scary boss, he would definitely be able to kill everyone from Chuanjin. My agility isn't enough. Hearing that his boss wanted him to lure that scary guy, Shimin Yashin was a little scared. Merciless Hands took out a scroll and said, Shadow of Agility. This scroll dropped from yesterday's annual dungeon. It increases your speed by 100% for 10 minutes. 10 minutes should be enough for you to lure it from Dragonblood Plateau to Dragonblood Plains. Enough. Shimin Yashin took the scroll and said happily, after it's done, there will be a reward of 20 gold coins. You have to work hard. Dugu Jiuqiang also said, Thank you, boss. To move unhindered on Dragonblood Plains, the two guys looked at the people from Chuanjin who were chasing after Nian and throwing firecrackers. They were completely confused. Which one of them didn't get chased like a dog when they were farming Nian? This group of people actually chased Nian like a dog. This was too much of a change in the two's outlook on life. The two of them followed behind the people from Quanjin sect and watched as they threw and exploded Nian until they chased the Nian into a dead end. Then they threw 2 fireworks. The Nian turned into equipment and points amidst the colorful fireworks. So, firecrackers are used to blow up the boss. If I had known, I wouldn't have had such a hard time yesterday. You guys didn't use firecrackers to kill the boss. The people from Chuanjin were also a little stunned. They knew how thick Nian's skin was. Normal players could only take a few drops of HP from it with a single skill. Yeah, we have a lot of people in our guild. However, the points we give are much less. Each person only gets 100 points. It's better to kill the baby Nian. A small stick said, TSK. Having a lot of people is awesome. The people from Chuanjin were completely convinced. Unhindered had over 10,000 players. If each of them threw out a skill, they would be able to grind the Nian to death after a few rounds. In an era without AoE skills, even the system was helpless against such a scoundrelly human wave tactic. Nian dropped equipment and materials all over the ground. Among them, there was a rare mineral that was quite interesting. This rare mineral was called magic crystal. It couldn't be enchanted, forged, or processed. In the end, Wuji threw it to Wang Yu. The reason was that Wang Yu's entry-level engineering also used this mineral. Since it didn't say that it couldn't be made into parts, then Wang Yu might be able to use it. Because of this, Wang Yu lost a chance to distribute the equipment. After distributing the equipment, everyone was about to return to their original path to continue leveling up. Suddenly, a dragon's roar resounded through dragon blood plains. After the dragon's roar, a figure quickly ran toward the people from Qiuanjin. Behind that person was a skinny guy. Although the skinny guy was humanoid, there were horns on his head. His eyes were blood red, and his skin shone with a metallic luster. In his right hand, he was holding a gun. The guy got closer and closer to the player in front. Finally, when he was about 30 meters away from the player, he raised his gun, and the player in front of him turned into a white light. The people from Qiuanjin were all shocked. An attack range of 30 meters. Where did this guy come from? When a small stick and I want to stab you saw the strange guy, they were so scared that their legs turned to jelly. Chapter 102. If there was a monster that left the deepest impression on the players of Sky Dragon City, it would be this dragon blood spear god, not the magic dragon. Since ancient times, no matter if it was in the game or in real life, anything with a dragon and a god in their name was not to be messed with. This guy had 2 words in his name, so it was clear how strong he was. Of course, the name was just a code. The deepest impression that Dragon Blood Spear God left on the players of Sky Dragon City was that he had once massacred a city. When the players were still level 10, there was a reckless fellow who ran to the Dragon Blood Plateau. No one knew how he managed to provoke this boss, but not only did this boss kill him, the boss actually chased him all the way from the Dragon Blood Plateau to Heavenly Dragon City. Then, the boss blocked the entrance of Heavenly Dragon City and slaughtered players. If not for the guards chasing the boss away in the end, the players of Heavenly Dragon City might have all fallen back to the novice village. From then on, the players of Sky Dragon City were traumatized, and Dragon Blood Plateau became a forbidden area for the players of Sky Dragon City. Seeing the Dragon Blood Spear God, one small stick and one small stick were reminded of the terror of this demon who massacred cities. Everyone run. This guy's a monster. One small stick reminded everyone. He really wants to stab. One small stick turned around and ran. The two hadn't even taken 3 steps when 2 gunshots rang out and turned into white light. Range 40 meters. Qiuanjin's players were shocked again. This was an AF Asterisk King boss. It was a human cannon. In Rebirth, attack range was calculated by yards. In reality, 100 yards was equivalent to 1 meter. Melee classes such as warriors and knights had an attack range of around 300 yards. Mages and priests had an attack range of 800 yards. Archers, who had the longest arms, had an attack range of only 1,000 yards. Even if a player learned snipe at level 20, their attack range would only be around 2,000 yards. But this boss could actually kill people from 4,000 yards away. Not only that, his attack and movement speed were far beyond everyone's imagination. A ranged boss with high agility and high damage was a nightmare for players who used Zerg tactics. In the blink of an eye, the Dragon Blood Spear God was already a dozen or so meters away from them. Dragon Blood Spear God, level 35, boss, elite 10000 skills. Gunfighting arts, precise strike, bullet rain, dazzling hunter blossoms. A level 35 manual mode boss. No wonder the aggro range was so far. Seeing this guy's attributes, everyone in Qiuanjin had a frosty expression on their faces. Even a ruthless person like Wang Yu was nervous. As a technical player, Wang Yu was most afraid of bosses that focused on speed. Not only was this boss fast and had high attack, but its hands were also F** King long. What was even more annoying was that this boss had a mix of classes. Bosses were usually mixed classes. For example, Enariel was a mage and warlock, while Ertis was a warrior and knight. The settings of these bosses were still in line with the rules. If they were ranged, they would be ranged. If they were melee, they would be melee. But this Dragon Blood Spear God was a Grandmaster of Combat and an archer. Didn't this mean that this guy's fighting style could be ranged or melee? If they were to fight, if they were in a good mood, they would come up for close combat. If they were in a bad mood, they would kite and fight from afar. How shameless. Haven't you shameless humans been taught a lesson enough? The dragon blood spear mumbled as it raised its spear and fired. Protect Wuji. Bosses in manual mode had very high intelligence. They would definitely target the squishy healers first. Xuanjin was full of battle-hardened experts. Before Chun Xiang finished speaking, Yin Laoer had already moved in front of Wuji the moment the dragon blood spear god raised its spear. He raised his shield and attacked. Bang! With a muffled sound, Yin Laoer was pushed back nearly a meter. A -402 number appeared above his head. Seeing the dragon blood spear god's attack, Wuji's face turned pale. Yin Laoer was a heavily armored tank. Not only did he have a full set of high defense equipment, but his shield attack also had a block attribute. Even so, that attack still took half of his HP. If this attack had landed on anyone else in Xuanjin, it would have been an instant kill. Wuji casually healed Yin Laoer. The Dragon Blood Spear God's second attack arrived. This attack instantly killed Chun Xiang, who was the furthest away from Wuji. Yin Laoer had just used charge. He had no time to care about Chun Xiang. Chun Xiang seemed to know that the Dragon Blood Spear God's next target was him. He had already summoned Little Ghost. He crouched behind Little Ghost. Little Ghost was instantly turned into a white light. Old Li dodged. Chun Xiang shouted as he lay on the ground. Xuanjin had 3 cloth armor classes. It was Mingdu's turn. Mingdu hurriedly stood behind Bao San. Bang! A gunshot rang out. Bao San was instantly turned into a white light. Before he died, he did not know why the boss's bullet had landed on him. Everyone cheered. Old Li, good job. Don't say that to Bao San. Mingdu chuckled. Mingdu did not have movement skills. Moreover, he was standing too arrogantly. He had no cover, so he could only find someone who could take a beating, who knew that Bao San would not even be able to block a single hit. At the same time, Ming Jian Daoshua had already stealthed behind the Dragon Blood Spear God. He stabbed Dragon Blood Spear God's back with backstab. A bright red -882 appeared above the Dragon Blood Spear God's head. Ming Jian Daoshua had stealth buff, backstab buff, and 10 inflict buff. Right now, his backstab's damage was close to 4 digits. Seeing this damage number, everyone let out a long sigh of relief. Luckily, this boss's defense was very average. This boss had high attack, high speed, and a ranged attack. If its defense was any higher, then everyone could only resign themselves to fate. After Ming Jian Daoshua's blade pierced through, he immediately activated swift travel and tried to escape. However, the Dragon Blood Spear God didn't even turn his head. He grabbed Ming Jian Daoshua and pulled him back. He grabbed Ming Jian Daoshua's neck with one hand and pressed a spear against his head with the other. Bang! Ming Jian Daoshua turned into a white light. The dagger in his hand fell to the ground. Pick up the dagger. To place one's pride shouted as he rushed forward with Wang Yu. To place one's pride shoes had a movement speed skill, so he grabbed the dagger before Wang Yu. Dragon Blood Spear God's eyes turned cold. He lightly jumped back and kicked to place one's pride into the air. To place one's pride, Quick recovered in midair and wanted to use Eagle Stamp to land. However, Dragon Blood Spear God calmly raised his knee, interrupting to place one's pride skill and knocking him into the air. To place one's pride was about to kill place one's pride in one shot, but Mingdu's lightning and spring source distortion had already arrived. Dragon Blood Spear God turned and appeared behind to place one's pride. He dodged their skills, raised a spear, and pulled the trigger. To place one's pride was insta-killed. Wuji's recovery did not even have any effect. At this time, Wang had already arrived. He stretched out his hand and threw the dagger into his bag. The Dragon Blood Spear God sneered and kicked at Wang Yu's face. Dust jump. Wang Yu's body flashed, and he appeared behind Dragon Blood Spear God, kicking out twice in a row. This skill was called the 9 Revolutions Chain. Evildoers Run Wild had used it before, and it was even more powerful in Wang Yu's hands. Wang Yu's first kick was a side kick, and his second kick was a thunder stamp. Dragon Blood Spear God was caught off guard. and Wang Yu's kick landed squarely on his back. He was knocked into the air, and he used the kick to stagger and fall forward. Minus 1,160 to 1,752. Chapter 103. Everyone run. I'll hold it. At this moment, Wang Yu shouted in the channel. Everyone said in shock, "Can you do it?" "I don't know. Just hold on for as long as I can," Wang Yu said. "Then try to hold on for a bit longer." After saying this, everyone turned around and ran. At this moment, Dragon Blood Spear God rolled on the ground and stood 5 meters away from Wang Yu. Wang Yu swung his fist forward, and Dragon Blood Spear God retreated and raised his hand to fire a shot. Wang Yu was shocked and hurriedly used his arms to block. Bang! The Chi Wave shield was broken, and Wang Yu was pushed back. Dragon Blood Spear God retreated while firing. Bang, 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 bang. There was no movement behind Wang Yu, and when he turned around, Wu Ji and the others were already gone. Damn, this was the disgusting thing about manual mode bosses. They were never controlled by aggro, and they could attack players as they pleased. At the same time, Wu Ji and the others said in the channel, "You should run too. We're dead." "I probably can't run." Wang Yu rolled and dodged, dodging Dragon Blood Spear God's bullet. He then closed the channel and focused on Dragon Blood Spear God. This boss was too fast, and bullets were different from bows and arrows. They could not be grabbed with bare hands. In Rebirth, as long as one was fast enough and accurate enough, an archer's arrows could be shot down or grabbed. But bullets were different. After all, bullets were defined as arrowheads, and as long as one touched it, the system would automatically determine that one was injured. This was something that Wang Yu had tested in the Wandering Musketeers camp. At this time, he could only dodge and not take a head-on. The speed of a bullet fired from a gun was definitely faster than any arrow. From the sound of the gun to the moment the bullet arrived, it was close to the speed of sound. Therefore, if Wang Yu wanted to dodge the Dragon Blood Spear God's bullet, he would have to see how he started and then determine the direction to dodge. If he turned around and ran like an idiot, he would not be able to see Dragon Blood Spear God's move, and Wang Yu would definitely not live for more than 3 seconds. So he could only move forward. Bang! A gunshot rang out, and Wang Yu ducked and dodged. He took a few steps forward and was still 6 meters away from the Dragon Blood Spear God. Bang! The second shot rang out. Wang Yu leaped forward and rolled, dodging once again. He was still 4 meters away from the Dragon Blood Spear God. However, the Dragon Blood Spear God was slightly taken aback. He jumped back and pulled away another meter of distance before raising his spear. Seeing the Dragon Blood Spear God's actions, Wang Yu seemed to have realized something. Wang Yu rolled again, dodging the bullet and advancing another meter. As expected, the Dragon Blood Spear God took another step back. Humph, so that's how it is. Wang Yu snorted and looked at the cooldown time of Night Leap. There were still 10 seconds left. Wang Yu mustered all his strength and rolled left and right, continuously approaching the Dragon Blood Spear God's body. As the Dragon Blood Spear God retreated and pulled away from Wang Yu, bullets continuously shot towards Wang Yu. At this time, the game inspection team was in an uproar again. Little Zhao, who was in charge of monitoring abnormal situations in the game, was sweeping away mines. Suddenly, an alarm sounded on the screen. He switched the image to the surveillance screen and pointed at the red dot on the screen. He shouted in shock, F***CK, Old Zhang, the boss that massacred Sky Dragon City in Server 9 has been lured out again. Old Zhang, who was eating at the side, walked over impatiently and said, "These players are always looking for trouble. Why are you provoking them? It's Chinese New Year, and they can't even let us rest." When he saw the screen, Old Zhang said strangely, "That's not right. Why is the Dragon Blood Spear God stuck in Dragon Blood Plains? It's been a while. Switch to the big screen." All right. Little Zhao pulled the screen to the Dragon Blood Plains and saw Wang Yu, who was desperately approaching the Dragon Blood Spear God. F***CK. What the hell? Is this player crazy? Old Zhang almost spat out the food in his mouth. The Dragon Blood Spear God was a level 35 manual mode boss. Little Zhao was stunned. He pointed at Wang Yu and said in panic, It's him again." "What? Do you know him?" Old Zhang asked curiously. "This guy is from his 7th zone. He killed the Silver Moon Wolf King all by himself. All the colleagues on the morning shift have seen it. Little Zhao said. The scene from last time felt like it had happened yesterday, and it was still fresh in his memory. Is that so? That Wolf King is also in manual mode. Old Zhang frowned. He put down his bowl and stared at the screen carefully. Precise strike dodged. Dodge again? How is that possible? Old Zhang said in disbelief. Show me his attribute panel. Let me see his agility. Little Zhao clicked a few times and brought up Wang Yu's attribute panel. Seeing Wang Yu's attribute panel, Old Zhang was stunned again. Level 19. With the bonus from his equipment, his agility is only around 80. Check it. I don't believe that this person is not cheating. In the game settings, one's agility had to be above 190 to be able to dodge bullets. Moreover, to be able to do this, one had to be a professional player with high operational awareness. Wang Yu's agility was only around 80. To be able to do this, it was obviously not in line with the settings. The game was made up of data. Although there were some bugs in the logic, the data settings were absolutely strict. No matter how good a person was, it was impossible to break the game's data settings. Little Zhao quickly connected to Wang Yu's data. After a careful check, he replied, No, there is absolutely no external equipment or tampering with the data. That's impossible. Then how'd he dodge? Old Zhang said stubbornly. After looking at the screen carefully for a while, Little Zhao said, With my many years of experience, he should have already started dodging before the gunman opened fire. No way. What do you mean? Old Zhang obviously still did not believe it. Have you heard of anticipating the enemy's moves? Little Zhao asked. Isn't that a passive skill in Jin Kun? Hearing Little Zhao's words, Inspector Little Li, who was next to him, also came over. These people were the most professional game managers. They obviously knew the games on the market like the back of their hands. Yup, that's right. It said that Kung Fu masters can predict the enemy's attack based on their eyes and wrist movements. I think this guy might be one of those legendary Kung Fu masters. The others were speechless. Bullsh asterisk T. What era is it now? Who still knows that? That's right. Nowadays, people don't even watch Kung Fu movies anymore. But I still watched a few when I was young. They were all special grade. It's basically Bullsh asterisk T. China is so big. There must be a few crazy people. You can't deny it just because you haven't seen them, right? Little Zhao stared at Wang Yu on the screen and said. Old Zhang frowned and said, Slow down the game and see what's going on. Yup. Little Zhao nodded and slowed down the game screen. Everyone could only see the Dragon Blood Spear God's wrist shaking slightly. At the same time, Wang Yu had already started to roll. Just as Little Zhao said, this guy who was fighting the boss alone could really predict the enemy's movements. In a situation where his body was so weak, he could actually accurately determine the direction of the Dragon Blood Spear God bullet with just the shake of the Dragon Blood Spear God's wrist. Then, he could determine where he would land and roll over. Was he even human? They were existences akin to the gods of creation. Yet, a mere player had managed to stun the gods of creation. Speaking of which, what's the point of him hiding? Someone asked, puzzled. According to normal thinking, if he encountered such a boss, since he couldn't escape, he would just accept his fate. If he continued to waste time like this, it would be a waste of time. Little Zhao said, He seems to be moving forward, trying to get close to attack. Does this guy really want to kill the Dragon Blood Spear God? Everyone was in an uproar again. This was a boss that had once slaughtered a city. Someone actually dared to target him. Old Zhang chuckled and said, The Dragon Blood Spear God's speed is much faster than his. Moreover, not only does the setting have a knockback effect, but it will also automatically pull away. How can he get close? Chapter 104. Dusk Leap. Instantly reach a specified location within a 5-meter radius. Cool down, 60 seconds. Old Zhang glanced at Wang Yu's inventory and was speechless again. Most of the bosses in manual mode were designed for high-level quests. For example, this Dragon Blood Spear God was related to an S-rank quest. Although S-rank quests were declared to be impossible to complete, if they were really impossible to complete, then what was the point of designing them? Therefore, as long as one could find the right method, even an S-rank quest could be completed. This method was called a breakthrough point by the game designers. For example, when Wang Yu killed the Silver Moon Wolf King in the novice village, the tree next to it was the breakthrough point. Only someone as strong as Wang Yu could ignore the breakthrough point and forcefully kill the Wolf King. The breakthrough point of this Dragon Blood Spear God was distance. When players were within 3 meters of the Dragon Blood Spear God, the Dragon Blood Spear God would no longer use ranged attacks. Instead, it would use melee attacks. Of course, to prevent players from finding the breakthrough point too easily, the Dragon Blood Spear God was set to automatically pull away when players were within 5 meters of it. With the Dragon Blood Spear God's speed, as long as it wanted to, no player at the current stage would be able to get within 3 meters of it. After all, archers with the highest agility growth would not engage in close combat with others. Not every assassin had Kendo Shue's stealth-enhanced dagger. Dusk Leap was like a weakened version of teleportation. It was also a skill that came with the equipment, so the Dragon Blood Spear God could not judge. However, Old Zhang quickly said with disdain, "Humph, does he think that the Dragon Blood Spear God will be killed so easily in close combat? How childish." The Dragon Blood Spear God was a hybrid class between a Grandmaster of Combat and an archer. His close-range combat skills were also very strong. A mere Grandmaster of Combat who was not even level 20 would undoubtedly be dreaming if he wanted to kill him. As they spoke, Wang Yu had already rolled 5 meters away from the Dragon Blood Spear God. Dusk Leap's cooldown was over. With a flash of light, Wang Yu appeared in front of the Dragon Blood Spear God. The Dragon Blood Spear God was expressionless. He quickly sheathed his spear and punched at Wang Yu. After landing, Wang Yu did not hesitate at all. He moved to the side, turned around, and sent out a chi wave. Jumping backwards, Wang Yu used the recoil to jump behind the Dragon Blood Spear God. The Dragon Blood Spear God's attack missed, so he immediately bent over and kicked backwards. Sigh, he's an NPC after all. Wang Yu shook his head and sighed. The designers thought that their counterattack was perfect, but in Wang Yu's eyes, there were only 2 words, wide open. In Chinese martial arts, there was a saying, the feet don't cross the waist. The Dragon Blood Spear God's feet didn't just cross the waist. At this time, he had kicked Wang Yu's chest. Wang Yu did not panic. He drew an arc with his right hand and lightly dragged the Dragon Blood Spear God's ankle up. The Dragon Blood Spear God's leg was raised by another 10 centimeters. At the same time, Wang Yu's left leg kicked diagonally. The Thunder Step carried lightning, and it hit the center of the Dragon Blood Spear God's leg. F***CK. The GMs who were watching the commotion in front of their screens felt a chill run down their spines. Their expressions turned ugly. This guy was too vicious. 3214, a large red word appeared above the Dragon Blood Spear God's head. That kick was not only a vital point attack, but also a critical hit. The Dragon Blood Spear God cried out in pain. He flipped forward and stood up. His originally cold face was now filled with anger. Wang Yu said, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders, and I was worried that it wasn't a vital point. Hearing Wang Yu's words, the Dragon Blood Spear God became even angrier. So this guy was here to end his family line. Oomph. The Dragon Blood Spear God coldly harumphed. He wanted to back away, but Wang Yu would not let him do as he wished. Bursting fist cut into the Dragon Blood Spear God's chest, and the Dragon Blood Spear God used both arms to attack. Wang Yu laughed and canceled the bursting fist skill. He bent down and dodged the Dragon Blood Spear God's grab. The posture of using the knee strike skill was to have 1 foot on the ground and 1 knee up. Wang Yu bent down and kicked the Dragon Blood Spear God's leg, causing the Dragon Blood Spear God's body to tilt and lose his balance. Just as the Dragon Blood Spear God was about to fall to the ground, he suddenly raised his right leg and kicked Wang Yu's face. The sidekick skill was also an open skill, so Wang Yu rarely used the system's required posture to use it. Seeing the Dragon Blood Spear God use this move, Wang Yu chuckled and grabbed the Dragon Blood Spear God's ankle with his knee. Then, he raised his leg and stepped between the Dragon Blood Spear God's legs. Seeing Wang Yu use such a method to beat up the Dragon Blood Spear God, the monitoring group's comrades could not bear to see it. F***CK. Is this brat really going to kick the boss out of the shadow in his heart? Roar! After being stepped on twice, the Dragon Blood Spear God was completely enraged. He used his golden light overlord body and leaped far away. Then, he pulled out 2 guns from his waist and aimed at Wang Yu. F***CK. Shameless. Why are you using 2 guns? Wang Yu was shocked when he saw the 2 guns in the Dragon Blood Spear God's hands. It was already so difficult to dodge a single gun. How could 2 guns be any better? At this moment, the 2 guns in the Dragon Blood Spear God's hands shone with a golden light. Then, a string of bullets shot towards Wang Yu's body. This stupid gun can fire consecutively. This doesn't make sense. Wang Yu could not dodge in time and was hit a few times. His health plummeted. Bullet rain. 50 consecutive bullets in 3 seconds, with a critical hit effect. Seeing the Dragon Blood Spear God use this skill, the GMs finally relaxed. F***CK. This brat is finally going to die. The boss he had designed had been defeated by a low-level player. He felt as if he had watched his own daughter be taken away by a pauper. No, he's not dead, little Zhao suddenly shouted. Old Zhang said in disbelief, how is that possible? If he can dodge 50 consecutive bullets, this game might as well shut down. He didn't dodge it, but he got the silkworm armor, little Zhao said helplessly. F***CK. How can this guy get everything? Old Zhang was so angry that he almost smashed the table. As one of the game designers, Old Zhang naturally knew that the silkworm armor had a passive skill called Chi Barrier. It provided invincibility for 2 seconds. The Dragon Blood Spear God's 50 bullets were wasted. Impossible. Seeing Wang Yu walk out of the eggshell, the Dragon Blood Spear God's expression was exactly the same as Old Zhang's. Wang Yu said with lingering fear, I was almost killed by you. As he spoke, the cooldown of Dust Jump was over. Wang Yu's figure flashed and appeared in front of the Dragon Blood Spear God again. Although the Dragon Blood Spear God's combat skills were not bad, his main class was an archer after all. All his skills were with weapons. With his skills, he was not worth mentioning in the eyes of a martial arts master like Wang Yu. One had to know that Hermit was already the pinnacle of combat skills in Rebirth. In terms of skills, even he was not as good as Wang Yu, let alone a half LV35 player. Elbow strike, left and right lift, sun punch, crosshand side kick. Wang Yu used fists, elbows, knees, and shoulders at the same time. The special effects of his system skills were combined with his own martial arts. The combo was flawless, and the Dragon Blood Spear God did not even have time to fight back. As the Dragon Blood Spear God's health dropped, the GMs were shocked by Wang Yu's flawless combo. Chapter 105. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Ancient Chinese martial arts focused on hooking, twisting, sticking, and hitting. Once it got close, it would be very difficult to break free. Even though the Dragon Blood Spear God's speed was far greater than Wang Yu's, in the face of Wang Yu's relentless attacks, he couldn't even land on the ground and quick recover. He was stuck to the ground. Old Zhang looked at the poor Dragon Blood Spear God and asked in confusion, this guy only has 80 agility. How can he attack so quickly? Little Zhao said seriously, his attacks are not fast, but they are very rhythmic. Everything is in order and there are no flaws. Rhythm? Yes, there used to be a very old standalone game called Meteor Butterfly Sword. In the early stages, there was a bug called Dagger Jump. It relied on rhythmic jumps to make it impossible for people to quick recover. This guy's attack style is obviously based on his own skills, using rhythm to crush speed. Hiss! Old John gasped, this guy is too scary. Could it be that the high-level boss battle techniques we designed are not even worth mentioning in front of him? That should be the case. Little Zhao nodded. This guy's combat skills are much higher than Old Chen's. The Grandmaster of combat battle techniques that Old Chen designed are naturally full of flaws in his eyes. Although the Dragon Blood Spear God was a gold boss in manual mode, his class and type meant that he did not have much HP. Under Wang Yu's combo, he quickly reached 30%. Roar! The dragon blood spear god reached the limit, and with a dragon roar, he activated super armor. Wang Yu chuckled and extended his arms, intending to pull him over with a knee strike and interrupt his burst. Unexpectedly, the dragon blood spear god's body suddenly expanded and sent Wang Yu flying. Roar! With another loud roar, the dragon blood spear god's body was covered in red light. The red light had a burning effect, forcing Wang Yu to hide far away. The red light dissipated, and the dragon blood spear god's figure gradually appeared in the air. The horned guy was gone, and in his place was a giant dragon. Sharp dragon fangs protruded outwards, and its face was extremely malevolent. Its fiery red scales flickered with light, and its 5-meter-long body gave off a formless pressure. It spread its wings and flew into the air. Second form of the dragon blood spear god, Flame Dragon Monarch. Fire Dragon Monarch, Fake, LV35, Gold Boss. Elite Skills, Dragon Flame Fireball, Dazzling 100 Blossoms Roar. After being pummeled by Wang Yu for such a long time, the Fire Dragon Emperor's rage bar was already full. It roared and opened its mouth wide. A huge fireball flew towards Wang Yu. Although this thing wasn't a true level 200 dragon, since it could transform into this form, its attacks weren't something that Wang Yu could withstand. Wang Yu hurriedly rolled away to avoid the second fireball. F***CK. Wang Yu was shocked. He leaped forward and rolled in the air again, rolling under the giant dragon's body. The Fire Dragon Monarch's body was huge, so when it was low in the air, the area below it was the fireball's blind spot. If the system wanted him to go against the rules, he could stretch his neck and throw the fireball below him. Wang Yu could only give in. It was obvious that the system's shamelessness had its limits. After Wang Yu rolled under the Fire Dragon Monarch, it lost its target and stopped attacking. Wang Yu switched to Warrior's Persistence and jumped up to stab. That's right, stab. The Fire Dragon Monarch was 3 to 4 meters above the ground, so Wang Yu could only stab upwards like he was picking clothes with a bamboo pole. Such a comical action. Even Wang Yu didn't have the face to call it a staff technique. Feeling the abnormality under its belly, the Fire Dragon Monarch recalled the humiliation of being stepped on in the crotch. It roared angrily and grew more than twice its original size. It was now 8 to 9 meters above the ground. I'm doomed. Seeing the Fire Dragon Monarch fly up, Wang Yu was shocked. The Fire Dragon Monarch was too close to the ground earlier, so he couldn't see Wang Yu. Now that it was as high as a 3-story building, he could see all the enemies on the ground. What was more troublesome was that the Fire Dragon Monarch was flying in the air. At this distance, only archers could reach it. Wang Yu immediately turned from an attacker to a live target. Roar! Lowly worm, what kind of stupidity made you provoke a dragon? The Fire Dragon Monarch sneered at Wang Yu. Its wings and mouth lit up at the same time. With Wang Yu as the center, densely packed red circles appeared within a radius of 15 meters. Wang Yu knew that this was the attack range of the skill. With such an area of effect, it was impossible for him to escape. Wang Yu's night leap could only cover a distance of 5 meters. With the Fire Dragon Monarch's attack power, the remaining 10 meters was enough to blast Wang Yu to death. Seeing the Fire Dragon Monarch use this skill, Old Zhang laughed. Ha! I don't believe that he won't die this time. Little Zhao was disappointed. Sigh, what a pity. He even used his second form. There's nothing to feel pity about. After all, everyone has their limits. It's already very overpowered to be able to force the boss to use the Fire Dragon Monarch's version of Dazzling 100 Blossoms. Old Zhang said. In reality, his feelings were very complicated. The boss that he created had been defeated by a single person. Old Zhang was definitely not satisfied, but seeing Wang Yu fail at the last moment, he would be lying if he said that he wasn't disappointed. While Wang Yu was in a daze, the Fire Dragon Monarch's huge figure covered the sky. At this time, the skill was ready. The sky. Wang Yu raised his head and squinted at the huge dragon in midair. A trace of joy flashed in his eyes. Boom! Boom! Countless fireballs shot out from the huge dragon's body, covering the entire area. Everywhere that was hit by the fireballs turned into a sea of fire. Looking down from above, it looked like flowers were blooming. It was very beautiful and lived up to the name Dazzling Hunter Blossoms. Sai turned off. This time, the player didn't steal anything. The Fire Dragon Monarch will return to its territory after the battle ends. Old Zhang said. Okay. Little Zhao shook his head regretfully. He was about to turn off the monitor screen when Old Zhang suddenly pulled him back. Wait, what's on the back of the Fire Dragon Monarch? On its back. Little Zhao's eyes almost popped out. Damn, it's that player. How'd he get on it? Hurry up and replay it. It must be a system bug. Old Zhang shouted anxiously. He thought to himself, this brat is still pretending. This time, I have something on him. Little Zhao dragged the progress bar to the boss ultimate skill and clicked on the slow motion. When they saw how Wang Yu flew onto the dragon's back and dodged the Fire Dragon Monarch's attack, everyone in the monitoring group, including Old Zhang, was completely dumbfounded. This guy is not human. This phrase echoed in everyone's mind. Chapter 106. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Wang Yu is someone who didn't even know how to play computer games. Naturally, he wouldn't exploit any system bugs. On the screen, the moment the dragon used its skill, Wang Yu suddenly slammed the staff in his hand against the ground, and his head and feet left the ground. When his body reached the highest point, he suddenly retracted his staff and sent out a chi wave from his palm. The recoil force turned his body around, and he rose another half a meter. At the same time, he used Night Jump and appeared on the back of the dragon. A warrior's persistence was about 2 meters long. Wang Yu was 186 meters tall. With the help of the chi wave, he teleported 5 meters away. It was just enough. In terms of data, it was passable. If it was a keystroke, the difficulty would be the same as the blind monk in League of Legends. If a professional player's reaction speed and hand speed were fast enough, it was still achievable. However, this was in holographic mode. In holographic mode, one couldn't just rely on one's reaction speed to achieve this. While the giant dragon was attacking, one had to coordinate all the muscles and nerves of the entire body. The angle of the psychic wave also had to be accurately judged. Therefore, to be able to do this, one had to rely entirely on technique, the pinnacle of the human body's techniques. GMs had been in the game industry for so many years, but they had never seen such a crazy guy. Flying onto the Fire Dragon Emperor's back, Wang Yu wiped the sweat off his forehead. To be honest, with Wang Yu's current attributes, it was really difficult for him to do this. Especially when he saw the blooming fire lotuses on the ground, Wang Yu felt lucky. The Fire Dragon Emperor was still desperately setting up the fire. Wang Yu took out the famous Sword Dao Shui dagger and stabbed it into the Fire Dragon Emperor's neck. As the saying went, hit the snake's weak spot and hit the dragon's reverse scale. The Fire Dragon Emperor's neck had a circle of reverse scales. It should be the legendary reverse scale. Pucci, minus 5,895 critical damage. Wang Yu stabbed it and blood spurted out. The boiling blood splashed onto Wang Yu's body, and Wang Yu's health dropped. Those with dragons in their names are really not to be trifled with. Wang Yu carefully pulled out the dagger and was about to stab it again. Literature, tower, roar. The Fire Dragon Emperor felt the pain and turned around immediately. Wang Yu was flustered as he hugged the dragon's neck tightly. He grabbed the dagger and slid it across the dragon's neck. Minus 5,476. Another critical hit. Wang Yu was delighted. It turned out that attacking the Fire Dragon Sovereign's reverse scale had a 100% chance of critical hit. The Fire Dragon Sovereign had been in Celestial Dragon City for many years and had never been treated like this. Not only had his crotch been stepped on, but his reverse scale had also been stabbed twice. The enraged Fire Dragon Sovereign struggled and flew around in the air like a headless fly. Wang Yu used the coiling force and locked his legs around the neck of the Fire Dragon Emperor. With one hand around the Fire Dragon Emperor's throat, he grabbed the dagger with his other hand and sliced the Fire Dragon Emperor's reverse scale again and again. The sound was ear-piercing. Dragon blood flowed down Wang Yu's wrist and covered his entire body. His HP was also decreasing. If not for the heavenly silkworm armor's HP recovery effect, Wang Yu would have long since been burned to death. 4582-3657. The health of the Fire Dragon Emperor dropped bit by bit. Just one more slash, and it was about to be slaughtered. The Fire Dragon Emperor seemed to have lost its mind as it fell towards the ground. Lowly human great dragons. Even if you die, you must die with dignity. This brat is going to kill himself. Wang Yu was stunned. If this brat dies, then so be it. Don't drag me down with you. He released his limbs and jumped back. At the same time, wolf shadows smashed onto the Fire Dragon Sovereign's body. Silver Wolf Charge summoned 7 Wolf Kings to attack the enemy at the same time. Each Wolf King dealt damage equal to the user's Strength x3. Cooldown, 6 hours. This was the first time Wang Yu used this move. His strength was around 100 now, and the 7 Wolf Shadows dealt 2,100 damage to the dragon. Literature building, bang! The Fire Dragon Sovereign was smashed into white light in midair, and a bunch of things fell from the sky. Dusk Leap was still on cooldown, and Wang Yu landed at high speed. Even if he was strong, he did not have time to quick recover under such circumstances. He only had 10 HP left. After the people of Chuanjin died, they were in low spirits. They walked towards a tavern with their heads lowered. At the entrance of the tavern, a punishment paladin walked towards them. The punishment paladin smiled and said, "Everyone, you've come all the way to Sky Dragon City to die. You must be in a good mood." Everyone looked up and saw that it was Dugu Juqiang. Dugu Juqiang had an archer behind him. It was the guy who lured the boss. F***CK. When the people of Chuanjin saw that person, they immediately realized why the boss would suddenly attack them. It was Dugu Juqiang who did it. At this time, Wu Ji said coldly, "Humph, at least we can steal the boss before we die." "Ha ha! After so many years, Wu Ji dog, you still like to win in spirit." Dugu Juqiang laughed. "Same to you. I'm not happy today. If you want to die, I can help you." Wu Ji had been playing with eagles all year round. Now that he had been pecked in the eye by an eagle, he was not in a good mood. He looked like he would start a fight if he did not like it. The more Dugu Juqiang saw that Wu Ji was angry, the happier he felt. He said proudly, "Don't be so angry. We've known each other for a long time. Since you've come all the way here to die, I'll treat you to a drink today. Remember what you said." Wu Ji rolled his eyes at Dugu Juqiang, then said to the tavern owner, "1 gold coin per bottle. Pack 10 bottles for me." Dugu Juqiang laughed mockingly as he paid the bill. "Haha, Chuanjin is still the same. Shameless. But I'm happy today. 10 gold coins to buy my happiness, I accept." Just as Dugu Juqiang paid the bill, a world announcement suddenly flashed across the screen. World announcement. Yu Huiqing player, Iron Ox has killed Gold Elite boss Dragon Blood Spear God in Heavenly Dragon City and achieved the first kill, advancing one step further on the path of a powerhouse. System notification. You have killed boss Dragon Blood Spear God and obtained 70 million experience. System notification. You have reached level 20. System notification. You have killed neutral faction boss Dragon Blood Spear God and obtained the title Dragon Slayer. Heavenly Dragon City, honor -50. Current status is hate. Dragon's favorability -50. Current status is hate. Dragon Slayer, 20 strength, 20 vitality. It has a restraining effect on dragon monsters. Whoosh. A golden light flashed, and Wang Yu rose to level 20. His status was full. That was exciting, Wang Yu muttered as he lay on the ground. There were no monsters like this for him to practice on in real life. After such a big battle, Wang Yu was also exhausted. After resting for a while, Wang Yu walked up and picked up the items dropped by the Dragon Blood Spear God. The Great Fire Dragon Sovereign had only dropped one piece of equipment. The rest were all materials and blueprints. Fire Dragon Fong, Bow, Dark Gold, attack 80-100 mana 60 to 9,021 agility, 15 strength dragons aura. Counters beast-type monsters dragon strike. 30% chance to cripple target and reduce movement speed by 30% dragon flame. Normal attack has burning damage. Dragon's Rage, increases attack and attack speed by 80% for 40 seconds level requirement. 25 class requirement. Marksman, there were only 2 dark gold weapons in the world, and one of them was even obtained by Wang Yu. The level requirement was very high, and Dao Shui sold it for 240 gold coins. This crossbow only had a level requirement of 25, and it was obviously seasonal equipment. Its price was definitely higher than that dark gold broadsword. Thinking of this, Wang Yu grinned and put the crossbow into his bag. He started to look at the other items. Fire Dragon's Blood, quest item. Seeing that it was a quest item, Wang Yu carefully put away the Fire Dragon Blood. The system was such a scam. All quest items had their own uses. The rest were materials. Fire Dragon Meat X10, rare material, can be used to cook food. Fire Dragon Scale X12, rare material, can be used to make equipment. After throwing the materials into his bag, Wang Yu picked up the last small box. When he opened the small box and saw what was inside, Wang Yu was slightly stunned. This was a blueprint, and it was a blueprint that only Wang Yu could use. Magic cartridge making blueprint. Create a cartridge with magic power. Requirement: magic crystal. Class requirement: beginner engineer. Wang Yu was surprised at first, but he quickly understood. The Dragon Blood Spear God was a boss that used guns. It was normal for it to drop something like this. After putting away everything, Wang Yu opened the flashing message bar. After filtering out the congratulatory messages, he clicked on Chuanjin's guild channel. Wuji was there happily talking to Wang Yu. Iron Ox, you're really something. You didn't see the face of Gundog, ha ha ha. What happened? Wang Yu asked curiously. Everyone started talking about what had just happened in the channel. Ha, that big idiot. Wang Yu mourned for Duga Juqiang. Suddenly, famous Sword Dao Shui asked, Iron Ox, did you pick up my dagger? Wang Yu threw a screenshot over and said, Of course, your dagger helped me a lot today. If it weren't for famous Sword Dao Shui's dagger, Wang Yu might have been able to kill the Fire Dragon Sovereign by strangling its neck. Hey, this dagger isn't right. Famous Sword Dao Shui saw his dagger and mumbled in the channel. Chapter 107. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. No way, I only have this dagger in my bag. I can't be mistaken. Wang Yu was also a little confused. He took out the dagger and found that it was indeed different. This netherworld spear was originally dark blue in color. Its blade was very narrow, like a thin needle. Now it was about 2 fingers wide. A red light flowed on the blue blade's body. The blade itself had turned blood red. Nether Dragon Slayer, dagger, gold, attack, 47-69 mana, 22-46 Nether Strike. Deals damage equal to attack, plus agility x2. Nether. Passively increases stealth by 30%. Fire Dragon's Baptism. Stains Dragon's first drop of reverse scale blood. Attacks with Dragon Fire damage. Level requirement: 15. Seeing the stats, the others were amazed, praising Ming Jian Daoshua's luck. In Rebirth, equipment grades could be increased, but they had to find special NPCs, complete a bunch of quests, and find a bunch of materials. Therefore, if they couldn't find a weapon that they liked, very few people would think about it. After all, silver weapons and such would become obsolete in the later stages of the game. However, Ming Jian Daoshua's dagger's passive was too overpowered. If it wasn't for the fact that its level and grade were too low, it would be a godly weapon in the later stages of the game. Who would have thought that losing it would be a blessing in disguise, turning it into such a good item? It made the others very envious. Mingdu said sourly, Why didn't it drop my staff? Because you're afraid of death and sold out your teammates. Bao San said fiercely, God Neo, that Dragon Blood Spear God is so strong. What did it drop in the end? Wang Yu said, A bunch of materials. I'll tell you when I get back. Speaking of which, where are you guys? The tavern. It's on Thunder Dragon Road. Just ask an NPC and they'll tell you. Okay. Closing the chat, Wang Yu opened the world map and walked in the direction of Sky Dragon City. After waiting for a long time, Wang Yu looked around and came to the tavern. Wuji asked impatiently, What's going on? Did you get lost? Wang Yu wiped his cold sweat and said, I don't know why, But the people here all look at me with killing intent, killing intent. Everyone broke out in a cold sweat, and they thought to themselves, this guy's words are really profound. That's right. Sigh. You wouldn't understand even if I told you. Wang Yu sighed and shouted at the tavern owner, Boss, give me a glass of negus. 10 silver coins. Come and get yourself. The boss replied coldly, F***CK. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. What a scam. Normally, Negus's cup would cost 1 silver coin, and the waiter would personally bring it to him. How come it became 10 silver coins when it came to Iron Hero? And he even asked them to fetch it. See? The NPCs here are all like that. Wang Yu shrugged. How much honor do you have in Heavenly Dragon City? Chun Xiang asked. -50. All right, let's go back to our hometown. You, how many sins have you committed? You actually lost 50 honor points. Everyone replied one after another. I only killed a dragon blood spear god. That guy seems to be from some neutral faction. Literature building. Everyone was stunned for a moment. Mingdu murmured. So this game also has factions. Faction? What's that? The word faction sounded like killing intent to the newbie Wang Yu. It's choosing a faction, understand? In Western fantasy games, it's common to see alliance, neutral, and horde. In wuxia online games, it's common to see greedy wolf, broken army, and 7 kills. In this game, it's darkness and the light. It's only released after level 25, Chun Xiang explained. Chun Xiang had participated in the closed beta, and he had a thorough understanding of the game. What's the benefit of joining a faction? Wang Yu asked again. There's no benefit. It's just dividing the players into 2 opposing sides. When they meet, they'll fight to the death. After that, you'll get faction points. The neutral faction is just a bystander. Dragons belong to the neutral faction. If you kill their people, the neutral faction will view Sky Dragon City as an enemy. If you're targeted by dragons for no reason, you'll be lucky if they don't hack you to death. Damn, there's even such a thing? Then why do you want the players to fight to the death? Wang Yu asked again. Although he was very violent when he fought, he was actually a pacifist deep down. Chun Xiang said, fighting with others is fun. PK is the most important part of the game. If the players don't PK, the game company won't be able to earn money. Why do I feel like you're being played by the game company? Wang Yu laughed coldly. Everyone looked at him in disdain. TSK, you're talking like you're not. There's probably no one in the game who has killed more people than you. Wang Yu said righteously. I've killed people who deserve to be killed. Is that so? Mingjian Daoxue squinted his eyes and asked. He had a dark history of Wang Yu cheating people. Wang Yu squinted his eyes. Daoxue, your dagger is still in my hands. When Mingjian Daoxue heard Wang Yu say this, he shrunk his neck and quickly changed the topic. Nyogu, you're so smart. So the people you kill are naturally bad people. What did the dragon blood spear drop? A pile of trash. As he spoke, Wang Yu threw the dragon meat, dragon scales, and fire dragon tooth on the table and showed them. Wang Yu had already learned the magic clip, so he didn't take it out to show off. These are all rare materials. Trash? Everyone glared at Wang Yu, who didn't know what was good for him. Wuji reached out and took the dragon meat. Then, he said, I learned the cooking skill. Why get back to the encampment? I'll make something delicious for you guys. I don't need to pay for this dragon meat, right? Wang Yu waved his hand generously. Take it, take it. It's useless to me anyway. Wuji chuckled and put it in his bag. Everyone cursed in their hearts. How shameless of you to lie to a noob. This dragon meat is worth 10 gold coins in the market. Although they were cursing in their hearts, no one said it out loud. After all, Wuji was a good-for-nothing. In Xuanzhen, he was the only one who knew how to cook. Food made with rare materials always added permanent attributes. There was no need to offend this petty bastard over such a trivial matter. Does anyone want the dragon scales? Wang Yu asked as he looked around. Bao San said, this thing can be used to forge equipment. Nyogu, you're also a blacksmith. You should keep it for yourself. Wang Yu smiled. All right then. Bao San, hurry up and find the materials. When the time comes, I'll forge an equipment set for you. This guy still remembered to take Bao San's blueprint to practice. Okay, Bao San didn't refuse this time. Wang Yu's alchemy was equivalent to an advanced blacksmith. It was unique in the entire game. How much is this crossbow worth? Wang Yu turned around and asked Dao Xue Kendo. Dao Xue Kendo frowned. It's a seasonal equipment. It's hard to say the price. If we auction it off, it might sell for a high price. However, the fees will be high. It's better to keep it and try to sell it. All right, I'll listen to you. Wang Yu casually put everything on the table back into his bag. Wu Ji stood up and said, Let's go. Let's go home. Leaving so soon? We haven't walked around yet. Wang Yu said, Walk around my ass. This is the lair of the apocalypse. Wu Ji said angrily. Are you afraid? Wu Ji said, I'm afraid that something will happen to you. Do you think this is Yu Huicheng? With your honor points, the guard will arrest you if you spit on the ground. If they kill someone, don't even think about leaving. Chapter 108. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. After taking the airship for 10 minutes and returning to Yu Huicheng, Wang Yu anxiously went offline. This was because he had received a message from Mu Zixian, telling Wang Yu to go out for dinner with her if he was not busy. After going offline, Mu Zixian had already prepared Wang Yu's clothes and placed them on the clothes rack. Who are you eating with? Why are you dressed so formally? Looking at the suit on the clothes rack, Wang Yu felt his scalp tingle. As he practiced martial arts all year round, Wang Yu did not like tight clothes at all, so he usually wore loose clothes. Mu Zixian said, My best friend, we haven't seen each other for 5 years. Today, she passed by with her boyfriend. I booked a table at Huxin Hotel. Hurry up and dress me handsomely. Don't let her boyfriend lose to you. Wang Yu, a woman's competitive nature was really scary. She even wanted to compare herself with a man. After Wang Yu put on his clothes, Mu Zixian was still dressing up in front of the mirror. Seeing that Wang Yu had nothing to do, she instructed, Hubby, go to the basement and push our electric scooter out. Okay. Wang Yu responded, took the key, and went out the door. Huxin Hotel was in the old city area, a few kilometers away from where Wang Yu lived. There was no public transportation at night, so the couple relied on the second-hand electric scooter to go out. After Wang Yu pulled the electric scooter out from the basement, Mu Zixian also came down from upstairs. Behind her was a girl. Wang Yu took a closer look and saw that it was Yang Na. I couldn't tell that Brother Wang is actually so handsome. Yang Na praised with a smile. Literature building, this was not a lie. Wang Yu was 186 cm tall, with a stocky back and a wasp waist. He had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. Having practiced martial arts for many years, his body was even taller than a soldier's. At this moment, he was masculine and domineering. Wang Yu glanced at Yang Na and said with a dark expression, What are you going to do? Actually, Wang Yu was a very cultured person. She didn't know why, but every time she saw Yang Na, she would feel flustered and uncomfortable. Then, she would unknowingly look at Yang Na with hostility. If it was under normal circumstances, Wang Yu would definitely not speak so harshly. Yang Na smiled and said, Brother Wang, it's not right to say that. I'm going to the old city district for a walk. Can I go there on the way? Don't follow us. Wang Yu pointed at Yang Na and grumbled. He then sat behind the scooter. Mu Zixian naturally sat in the front and acted as the driver. Poochie. Yang Na burst out laughing when she saw that. Wang Yu blushed. What are you laughing at? Why don't you have any gentlemanly demeanor? Yang Na asked as she held back her laughter. Wang Yu scratched his head and said, I don't know how to ride a bike. Yang Na said disdainfully, Have you never thought of letting Sister Xian bring me along? What about me? Just run. No way. Wang Yu rejected her outright. He would be an idiot if he ran all the way there. Literature building. Mu Zixian said helplessly, Hubby, why don't you take a taxi first? Yang Na smiled and said, Sister Xian, I'm just joking with Brother Wang. I have a car. As she said that, she pointed at a red Ferrari in the parking lot not far away. Mu Zixian looked at her enviously and said, I didn't expect you to be so rich, Lil Na. Bullsh asterisk T. I have plenty of these crappy cars at home. Wang Yu said disdainfully. However, when he saw Mu Zixian's face darken, he knew that he had misspoken. He then said, Unfortunately, I still think that my wife's scooter is the most comfortable. Mu Zixian laughed and scolded. You only know how to coax me. Then we'll be leaving first, Lil Na. Although it's not as fast as your car, we'll still be able to fly first. Okay, be careful on the road. El City was known as the water city of Jiangbei. The scenery was very beautiful, especially the ancient city. It was a famous tourist attraction in El City. The entire city was built on the surface of a man-made lake. When Wang Yu and Mu Zixian first arrived, they would go to the lake almost every day to play. Now that it was nearing the end of the year, the ancient city was decorated with colorful lanterns. From afar, it was brightly lit. The name Water City was not in vain. However, there are not many tourists now. Most of the people who wandered here were locals. By the lakeside, they would set up a circle to read their fortunes. There were stalls next to each other. As long as it was not too much, the city management would not care. Mu Zixian rode the scooter and drove Wang Yu all the way through the streets to the entrance of the Lake Hotel. The Lake Hotel was a themed hotel on a small island in the middle of the lake in the ancient city. It had a completely retro design. It was said that it was set in a novel like Wu Daolong and Pan Jinlian. It was very culturally unique. It was so inauspicious. He really did not know what the owner was thinking. However, the food here was indeed quite delicious. The doorman at the entrance of the Lake Hotel was also different from other places. The manservant was wearing an ancient short-sleeved shirt and had a white towel on his shoulder. When he saw Wang Yu and Mu Zixian get off the scooter, he quickly came up and said, "Dear guests, please come in. Our wine here is famous for its delicious taste. It's called Full Bottle Fragrance. It's also called Pour. Stop the car and lock the lock." The combination of local and Western culture was neither fish nor fowl. Wang Yu really liked listening to the waiters yelling. After he finished yelling, Wang Yu patted Mu Zixian's shoulder and said, "You go in first. I'll go and park the car." Okay, remember to take out the key. Wang Yu nodded and pushed the scooter to the side. After bending over to lock the scooter, Wang Yu straightened his back and was about to walk into the hotel. Suddenly, there was a screech. A white Accord stopped behind Wang Yu. Wang Yu's intuition was amazing. He felt the discomfort behind him and jumped forward. Otherwise, he would have been hit. After the car stopped, a man and a woman got off the car. The man wasn't tall. He wasn't even 7 meters tall. He was dressed rather flashily. His hair looked like it was soaked in oil as it glistened. He wore a huge watch on his wrist. He didn't find it cold even in the winter. His sleeves were half rolled up. The woman was about 7 meters tall. She was dressed rather beautifully. After getting off the car, she glanced at Wang Yu indifferently and then looked at the scooter beside Wang Yu. She didn't say a word. As for the man, he quickly ran to the front of the car. After seeing that there was no problem with the car, he said unhappily, "What are you standing here for? If you were hit, you would lose your life. Do you know that?" Wang Yu narrowed his eyes, and a trace of displeasure flashed in his heart. There were many people at the Lake Hotel, so no matter what car it was slow. This guy drove like an airplane and even criticized him. Oomph. With a cold snort, Wang Yu ignored the kid and walked straight into the hotel. Seeing Mu Zixian choose a seat by the window, Wang Yu quickly walked over and sat beside Mu Zixian. He asked softly, "Your best friend isn't here yet?" Mu Zixian said with a smile, "I'll call and ask. My best friend is really pretty. Don't lose control when you see her." With that said, Mu Zixian took out her cell phone and dialed a number. "Sister Yin, you haven't arrived yet?" Mu Zixian asked. "I'm at the door. Where are you?" Mu Zixian said, "Table 47. I'm sitting with my husband. My husband is the one who is quite tall and handsome." "Oh, the one in the suit?" Wang Yu looked up and happened to see a gaze looking in his direction. Upon seeing the person's appearance, Wang Yu thought to himself, "What the F***CK? Can it be such a coincidence?" Chapter 109. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. I'm sure everyone has guessed it. That's right, this lady is the one Wang you just met at the door. At this moment, the lady was slightly stunned when she saw Wang Yu, but she didn't say anything. She quickly walked over, and a short man followed closely behind. Seeing the short man, Mu Zixin whispered to Wang Yu, "This kid isn't even as tall as Sister Yin. I don't know what Sister Yin sees in him." Wang Yu was speechless. They were already comparing. He didn't know how the lady in front of him would evaluate him in her heart. "This is Zhong Yin. Sister Yin, this is my husband, Wang Yu." Mu Zixin pulled Wang Yu and introduced him to Zhong Yin. Zhong Yin smiled and nodded. She pointed to the short man and said, "This is my boyfriend, Lei Jian." Then she pointed to Wang Yu and his wife. "This is the Xian that I often tell you about. Xian, you are really like a fairy." Lei Jian looked at Mu Zixin and praised her. He quickly lowered his head and pulled Mu Zixin's hand to bite it. Wang Yu narrowed his eyes and reached out to block Mu Zixin's hand. Then he held Lei Jian's hand. Lei Jian saw that the slender hand that he was about to bite suddenly turned into a big claw. He was shocked, but he didn't feel awkward. He looked up and smiled. I've been abroad for so many years. I'm used to it. I'm really sorry." Mu Zixin and Wang Yu sighed in their hearts. "Damn, he can really pretend." Zhong Yin explained. "Lei Jian is a foreign student. He just returned to China, so he's not used to it. Brother Yu, don't mind him." Wang Yu waved his hand and said, It's fine. At this time, Lei Jian also recognized Wang Yu. He wagged his finger and smiled. "Aya, so you are Xianxin's husband. I'm really sorry for being at the door just now. It's mainly because your battery-powered car was parked in the wrong place. My car was newly bought after I returned to China. I got into a car accident in less than 2 days. How unlucky, don't you think?" "Hee. Actually, you didn't park in the parking lot." Wang Yu replied calmly. Unknowingly or unintentionally, Lei Jian emphasized the words electric scooter. Mu Zixin's face turned ugly after hearing it. She asked Wang Yu, "Hubby, do you know him?" Driving recklessly on Huxin Road. "Luckily it's me. If it were someone else, they would have been in trouble." Lei Jian's aura was arrogant and pretentious. He had the aura of a nouveau riche. Mu Zixin didn't like him from the start. Now that she heard that Lei Jian almost bumped into Wang Yu, Mu Zixin's impression of this greasy-haired and powder-faced little guy directly fell to the bottom. As if she could see Mu Zixin's displeasure, Zhong Yin hurriedly said, "We're all on the same side. What's the point of saying such unhappy things? Order the dishes. Wang Yu nodded and handed the menu to Lei Jian. All right, this kid wasn't big, but his taste was quite heavy. He ordered dishes like lung slices, heart tubes, spicy duck head in a dry pot, and the likes. It was the kind with a lot of chili. Wang Yu usually practiced martial arts. He was particular about balanced nutrition. Overly heavy tastes could easily stimulate the body, so Wang Yu didn't eat spicy food since he was young. When he saw the dishes ordered by the girl, he was shocked. In the end, he randomly ordered a few light dishes. Seeing the dishes Wang Yu ordered, Zhong Yin was puzzled. Brother Yu is eating these? Lei Jian laughed and said, Brother Yu is different from us. He's easier to support. Literature building. To be honest, Lei Jian really didn't know that he was an unemployed vagrant who was supported by his wife. However, the listener had a deeper meaning to his words. It was fine if he was ridiculed, but he even poked at his sore spot. Wang Yu was also a little unhappy. Mu Zixin said coldly, Brother Jian, didn't I hear that foreigners don't eat offal and brains? You've lived outside for so many years, and your taste hasn't changed? Lei Jian smiled blankly and said, It's true that there aren't any outside. Didn't I want to eat more when I came back? Hee, then you should eat more. Mu Zixin said with a smile. In her heart, she said viciously, If you don't accumulate virtue with your mouth, be careful of hemorrhoids. Zhong Yin shook her head helplessly and asked Mu Zixin, By the way, Xian, what do you do now? Game customer service. You know Rebirth, right? It's our company's. Mu Zixin said. Hearing Mu Zixin mention Rebirth, Zhong Yin immediately perked up and said excitedly, Is that so? I'm also a Rebirth player. Now that I've joined a big guild, I can level up very quickly. Can you play? You can come find me. I don't play much, but my husband plays more. Mu Zixin said. Lei Jian heard this and asked with a smile, I wonder what Brother Yu does for you to have the time to play games. Wang Yu said lightly, I'm a freelancer. I'm currently half a professional gamer. Lei Jian was speechless for a moment and said, Sai, I heard that doing this is very tiring and doesn't earn much money. After I returned to China, I started a small company. If you don't want to do it anymore, you can follow me. Oh, I don't have much education. Wang Yu said lightly. Actually, the requirement for education isn't high. As long as you know how to use a computer or mobile phone. Lei Jian rambled on and on about B2B, e-commerce, WeChat business, Old Ma's family, and so on. Wang Yu was confused and said with a smile, Forget it, it's not suitable for me. Sigh, everyone has their own ambitions. If that's the case, I can introduce a few friends to you. They're very good in games. With their protection, no one will dare to provoke you. Lei Jian said again. Mu Zixian said with a smile. Wang Yu is very good at games. In Rebirth, he's the only one who protects others. Hee. Is that so? Lei Jian laughed and did not continue. However, he still muttered softly. What's there to be proud of in a game? If you're good at games, you'll have to beg until you are old. Wang Yu's ears were very sensitive. Naturally, Lei Jian's words fell into Wang Yu's ears. Mu Zixian was opposite Lei Jian and could hear it clearly. She was immediately enraged. Mu Zixian was not a person with a good temper. One had to know that this lady did not even bat an eyelid when a hooligan pointed a knife at her. At this moment, seeing her lover being looked down upon, how could she stand it? She immediately stood up and scolded Lei Jian for speaking without thinking. Who knew that Wang Yu would gently hold Mu Zixian's shoulder and press her down? Then, he said with a smile, Brother Jian, how long have you been abroad? I've been in France for 7 or 8 years. Lei Jian said very naturally, That's great. I've long heard that France is very beautiful, but I have never been there. I wonder if Brother Jian has any photos? Wang Yu said enviously. Hearing Wang Yu's pandering, Lei Jian immediately smiled like a fox. He took out his phone and extended it to Wang Yu. Yes. This is the Eiffel Tower in Paris. This is the Cathedral of Paris. Do you know Notre Dame? I'm talking about this place. Wang Yu frowned and said, Hey, is this the Cathedral of Paris? It looks like the Cathedral of Rome. When Wang Yu said this, Lei Jian hurriedly changed his words. Yes. This is the Cathedral of Rome. I remembered wrongly. This was taken when I went to Rome to play. Mu Zixian was very puzzled. She pulled Wang Yu and asked, Hubby, didn't you say that you have never left home since you were young? Yes. Wang Yu chuckled. Then, how do you know the Cathedral of Rome? I don't know. Wang Yu said honestly, I've only heard of it. Mu Zixian spat out a mouthful of tea. P.S. It's definitely not melodramatic. It's a real person. At that time, Uncle Neo was quietly watching that person act cool. Then I suddenly said, then became awkward. Chapter 110. Not only did he fail to act cool, he was tricked instead. This was very awkward. You've learned to be bad. Mu Zixian pinched Wang Yu and whispered. Wang Yu smiled and said, Let's eat. It was easy to learn to be bad, but hard to learn to be good. The NPCs in the game were so deceptive, but Wang Yu dealt with them calmly. Besides, those fellows from Chuanjin were the scum of the scum. Wang Yu had only scratched the surface. If it were scum like Wuji and Chun Xiang, who knew what would happen to this kid? Although Mu Zixian and Zhong Yinyan had a good relationship, Mu Zixian did not feel that Wang Yu had gone overboard. This was because Mu Zixian did not have a good impression of Lei Jian at first glance. He was pretentious, showing off, and had a wandering gaze. He did not look like a decent person. She really did not know how he did business with his words. Mu Zixian did not want her best friend to be fooled by such a person. Of course, what Mu Zixian hated the most was that he was so rude to Wang Yu. Mu Zixian had once said that the man in the family was the sky. No one could tolerate their sky being stained by someone else. Ha. Lei Jian laughed dryly. After being pranked by Wang Yu, Lei Jian became a lot more well-behaved. He did not act cool until the end of the meal. After the meal, Wang Yu paid the bill, and the four of them left the hotel. Lei Jian's heart was itching again. He pointed at Wang Yu's second-hand electric scooter and said, "Brother Yu, you should change your scooter. L City female sign. It's not like there's a traffic jam." Wang Yu said, "It's pretty good. It's natural and pollution-free. It protects the atmosphere. It's so late. It's dangerous to ride this thing. How about this? I'll send you back. My scooter, Creak." Before Lei Jian could finish, a red Ferrari sports car arrogantly stopped at the entrance of the hotel. Seeing this car, the four of them were shocked. One had to know that there were many terraced roads by the lake. Only a Ferrari chassis would dare to drive here. Following the sound of the motor, the roof of the sports car was lowered. Yang Na, who was in the driver's seat, poked her head out. "Young master, you are here." Yang Na took off her sunglasses, squinted her eyes, and shouted at Wang Yu. "Little Na." Mu Zixin greeted Yang Na warmly. Wang Yu nodded. "Why are you riding an electric scooter on the streets in the middle of the night? Hurry up and throw it away. Get in the car with young madam." Yang Na glanced at Lei Jian and said to Wang Yu with a smile, "Young master, young mistress." Lei Jian looked at Wang Yu and then looked at Mu Zixin. His mind started to go into a trance. This brat was actually eldest young master. Eldest young master was riding a Mother * King electric scooter. Mu Zixin seemed a little uncomfortable with being called young mistress, but Wang Yu was very familiar with being called young master. "How can I do that? It's 800 yuan. Men always had feelings for things they had ridden before. Turning to Wang Yu, he said, "How about this? Brother Jian will send us back, and you can take my scooter back." As he spoke, Wang Yu lifted the scooter that weighed a few hundred pounds with one hand, and it was easily thrown onto the front passenger's seat. Lei Jian looked at the broken scooter, and he was about to cry. An electric scooter is only 800 yuan. You could buy a bunch of scooters with just a little bit of paint on this scooter. Yang Na glared at Wang Yu and said, "Do you want to freeze me to death?" The sports car had very little space. Once the scooter was thrown up, it would be completely open. Wang Yu said faintly, "Drive slower at night. The road here isn't good." After he finished speaking, Wang Yu opened the door and pulled Mu Zixin into Lei Jian's car. It had to be said that sitting in a car was much warmer than riding an electric scooter. On the way back to the neighborhood with Wang Yu and his wife, Lei Jian didn't say a word. But from Zhong Yinyan's eyes, Wang Yu knew that these two probably wouldn't be together for long. What a sin. When they reached the neighborhood, Wang Yu and Mu Zixin saw Yang Na sitting in the car with a black face. Their scooter was thrown to the side. Mu Zixin stepped on Wang Yu's foot and said, "You can't bully people like this. Quickly go and thank them." "Thank you." Wang Yu smiled and cupped his fists at Yang Na. Yang Na snorted coldly and said, "No one has ever dared to treat me like this. If you King pick up girls again, I won't support you anymore." Looking at the resentful Yang Na, Mu Zixin said to Wang Yu, "You should get a driver's license." The next day, when he went online, Wang Yu first bought a few bottles of alcohol and then went to Central Street. Hermit told Wang Yu to look for him when Wang Yu reached level 20. He didn't know what mission he was going to give him this time. After wasting 2 bottles of alcohol, Hermit finally began to speak. "Young man, you are very capable. You reached level 20 so quickly. It's all because of your good teaching, teacher." Wang Yu said the system's lines against his will. Other than scamming money, this old guy had never taught him anything. Hermit happily accepted Wang Yu's flattery. "Not bad, not bad. You are worth teaching. Since you are so motivated, I will tell you the story of martial god." "I'm all ears," Wang Yu said. This was the first time Wang Yu heard about the background of the martial arts profession. Martial god is actually not from this continent. Hermit said. He said he came from the Far East. In his words, he is from another world. Can you understand? Yes. Wang Yu nodded his head. Wasn't it just transmigration? Wang Yu had read novels when he had nothing to do. Things like soul transmigration, body transmigration, alternate world transmigration, and plane transmigration had long been written down. He didn't expect it to still be used in the game. After the 7 heroes sealed the Dark Demon King, other than Martial God, The others returned to their hometowns and lived in seclusion. Only Martial God disappeared. Some people said that he had fallen, but that's not the case. I think he should have returned to his hometowns. Oh, you want me to go to his hometowns to find him and work with the 7 heroes to defeat the Dark Demon King? Wang Yu asked. Hermit said with disdain, "Young man, you are so useless. Can't you solve your own problems?" Wang Yu thought, "Then why are you talking so much nonsense? We are all old. The world belongs to you young people. Take this and search for the mark of Martial God." As Hermit spoke, he took out a black, pupil-shaped object. System notification. You have activated the 4th round of the Heart of a Warrior quest. Mark of Martial God. Quest rank S. Do you accept? Accept. System notification. Heart of a Warrior 4th round. Mark of Martial God. Rank S. Obtain Dark Skeleton 0 to 1, Holy Light Wing 0 to 1, Fire Dragon Blood 1 to 1, Titan's Heart 0 to 1, Killer Soul 0 to 1. Quest notification. There is no time limit for this quest. 2 people can form a team. This is a legacy quest. The great Martial God will not let anyone bring shame to his name. Before the quest is completed, experience will be sealed. System notification. You have obtained a special item, Sarah's Pupil. Sarah's Pupil, quest item. Durability, 5 of 5. Item used to remove the seal stone. Wang Yu opened the interface and looked at his attributes. The experience bar had turned gray. It seemed that if he couldn't complete this quest, he would be stuck at level 20 for the rest of his life. Heart of a Warrior, it really was a scam. Chapter 111. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. If not for the Fire Dragon's blood, Wang Yu might not have known how difficult this quest was. However, after seeing the Fire Dragon's blood, Wang Yu instantly understood that he had to kill 5 bosses. The Dragon Blood Spear God was a gold boss in manual mode. If not for Wang Yu coincidentally finding a breakthrough point, it was hard to say who would have died. Looking at this quest introduction, these 5 bosses were definitely not weaker than the Dragon Blood Spear God. Light and darkness were the main attributes of this game, and Titans were existences not inferior to dragons. As for assassins, although they sounded quite ordinary, the more inconspicuous an assassin was, the scarier they were. This was a principle that Wang Yu understood. Originally, Wang Yu had planned to go after he had a higher level and was more confident. However, the system seemed to have already known Wang Yu's thoughts and directly sealed his experience. Indeed, there was always a mountain higher than the one before. Seeing Wang Yu's dumbfounded expression, Hermit said, "Young man, show your courage. When Lord Martial God was your age, he had already challenged the authority of God. A true brave person must dare to face all difficulties." Lord Martial God once said, "As a martial artist, why should we be afraid of challenges? As a martial artist, why should we be afraid of challenges?" Hermit's words caused Wang Yu's fighting spirit to surge. As a martial arts scholar, Wang Yu's dream since he was young was to become an invincible powerhouse. Who would have thought that he would be able to live a peaceful life now? Even the hot-bloodedness he had when he was young had cooled down. Hermit's words once again ignited Wang Yu's heart. If he wanted to become a powerhouse, he needed to have the heart of a warrior. "Yes, thank you, teacher." Wang Yu nodded firmly and asked, "Where should I find these things?" "How would I know?" Hermit curled his lips. "Aren't you also a martial artist? You should have gone through this experience too." Wang Yu asked. Hermit said confidently, "Logically speaking, I should have gone through this trial, but I heard that the opponents were too strong, so I didn't dare to go. Lord Martial God is in urgent need of a successor. So, Wang Yu," Hermit smiled and said, "Don't look at me like that. If you complete the trial, you will be the only true successor of Martial God in so many years. What are the benefits? Does being unique in the entire continent count?" Pretend I didn't ask. After spending some money to learn level 20 Iron Mountain Crusher and Falling Cloud Palm from Hermit, Wang Yu left the alleyway gloomily. Iron Mountain Shatter, LVL1. uses the striker's powerful body to slam into a target, dealing 150% physical damage, and has knockback and bone-breaking effects. Activates super armor. Consumes MP 50. Falling Cloud Palm. LVL-1, a Chi Master condenses a powerful aura into a palm attack. Deals 150% magic damage to the enemy and all enemy units within 50 yards. Consumes MP 50. After level 20, classes began to take shape. All classes began to learn powerful skills. Iron Mountain Shatterer's super armor and Falling Cloud Palm's long-range AoE damage were all iconic skills of the classes. Looking at Wang Yu's back as he left, Hermit grabbed a bottle of wine and gulped it down. His cloudy eyes began to clear up, and his thoughts went back to many years ago when he last saw Martial God. As a martial artist, why should I be afraid of challenges? Then I won't be one. Sigh, why am I so unlucky? When I'm about to leave, I can't even find a proper successor. Forget it. I'll make an exception for once. But you must find me a qualified successor, okay? Yes, but are there any benefits? Thinking of this, Hermit murmured, "Young man, don't let me down." Teleporting to the guild encampment, Chuanjin and the others had already gathered. When Wang Yu arrived, they were about to go to the dungeon. Wang Yu said gloomily, "You guys go, I'm not in the mood." "What happened? Did you quarrel with your wife?" Mingdu asked with a smile. Wang Yu said gloomily, "I accepted a class quest. My EXP is locked." Saying so, he showed the quest to everyone. Everyone was overjoyed when they saw it. Chun Xiang clapped and cheered. "That's great. I can catch up to you this time. F***CK. Looking at the gloating guy, Wang Yu became even more gloomy. Then continued to be gloomy. "We're going to the dungeon. When we come out, we still have to kill Nian." Everyone knew that the reason why Wang Yu still followed them in the dungeon was because he wanted that bit of EXP. Now that there was no EXP left, of course they wouldn't shamelessly ask Wang Yu to follow them. After all, it was always others who hugged their thighs. More importantly, they could get a smaller share of the equipment dropped from the dungeon. In the guild encampment, only Li Shui and the others were left. The four girls have been having a lot of fun lately. They stayed in the guild encampment, buying materials, making potions, forging, and occasionally going out to get some lime powder to sell in the auction house. For some reason, Wang Yu wandered into the forging room, where Molly was forging. Molly was a very stubborn girl. She knew that the reason why the three of them were able to stay in the Chuanjin sect, a sect filled with experts, was all because of her big sister. Although she often said that she wanted to find someone to support her, if she really had to eat and be a flower vase, she would feel uncomfortable all over. Therefore, Molly worked hard to farm skills to show her value. There was no shortcut for subclasses. If you wanted to raise your proficiency, you could only keep forging. Only by forging exquisite items could you gain proficiency. Because it was boring, there were very few people who could train their subclasses to the highest level. However, for the girls who were terrible at fighting but extremely patient, subclasses were much easier than combat classes. The guild encampment's forging room did not require rent, and there was no need to queue. When Molly was tired, she would go out for a stroll and then continue practice. At this point, her forging skill was already close to the intermediate level. When she saw Wang Yu, Molly wiped her sweat and said, "Landlord, why are you here today?" "I'm just looking around." "What are you forging?" Wang Yu asked. Molly said, "Armor. After forging this, I can advance to an intermediate blacksmith." In Rebirth, heavy armor and weapons required the forging skill, while cloth armor required the tailoring skill. Oh, Wang Yu didn't know much about sub-occupations, and he didn't know how awesome an intermediate blacksmith was. However, he found it interesting when he saw Molly smelting ores and patiently forging them into armor. So he took out an ore that was shining brightly, sat beside the operating table, and began to study it. It was a magic crystal, the only thing Wang Yu could process at the moment. "What's this?" When Molly saw the magic crystal in Wang Yu's hand, her eyes turned into the shape of a heart. It should be known that women could not resist shiny things. If this thing was in Ma Li's hands, she would not be willing to sell it, even if it was priceless. She would definitely find a rope and hang it around her neck. Magic crystal. Wang Yu showed the attributes of the magic crystal. When she saw the attributes of the magic crystal, especially the fact that it could not be used to process gems, Ma Li was disappointed. This thing is useless. It's useless to you, but it's useful to me. Wang Yu placed the magic crystal on the workbench and took out a small item the size of a box. Chapter 112. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. The box was more than a meter long, and the things on it were very strange. There were cutting blades, grinding wheels, milling cutters, stamping machines, and drills. These things were outdated decades ago, and people who weren't professionals wouldn't be able to recognize them. Literature building. Ma Li was confused as she looked at this strange fellow and asked, "Huh, what's this?" Wang Yu glanced at the item's introduction and read, "Handheld miniature machine tool." "Where did you get this?" Molly was sweating. Why did it feel so illogical for something like a machine tool to appear in the world of swords and magic? Wang Yu also said in a daze, "I learned a subclass called Beginner Engineering, and then I clicked on the icon, and this thing appeared, TSK. The landlord is really capable." Molly gave a thumbs up and praised. She had to say that Wang Yu was much more awesome in the game than professional players like them. He actually brought out a machine tool. "Do you know how to use it?" Molly asked curiously. After living together for so long, Molly naturally knew that Wang Yu was incompetent in life. Not to mention machine tool processing, even fixing the television at home required Mu Zixian to roll up her sleeves and do it. Wang Yu laughed and said, "If a girl like you can forge iron, why can't I play with machine tools?" Molly's face turned slightly red. She had forgotten that this was a game, and all professions had system support. As he spoke, Wang Yu clicked on the switch of the machine tool. Then, 5 options appeared in front of Wang Yu: cut, punch, mill, grind, and drill. The process of processing the magic cartridge was cut, mill, grind, and drill. Therefore, Wang Yu threw the magic crystal onto the machine tool and pressed the 4 buttons in succession. It had to be said that everything complicated in the game was simplified. Making a magazine was a technical job. If it was in real life, a level 8 lathe would have to spend a lot of time to familiarize himself with making a magazine. In the game, it was much simpler. The magic crystal was thrown into the machine, and it was quickly cut into 5 cubes. After the cubes were cut, the milling cutter slowly descended and hollowed out the center of the cubes. Then, the grinding wheel ground the cubes into cylinders. Finally, small holes were drilled out, and a crystal clear magic magazine was completed. From start to finish, it took a total of 3 minutes, just enough time for a blacksmith to forge a piece of equipment. Magic cartridge. Flame allows firearms to shoot bullets with magic power. 5 of 5. Regenerates a bullet every 60 seconds. Wang Yu was overjoyed when he saw the magazine's attributes. He didn't stop there. Instead, he repeated the process a few more times until he had transformed the remaining 4 magic crystals into magic magazines. However, the production success rate of the magic cartridge wasn't very high. Out of the 4 magic crystals he used, only 2 succeeded. Magic magazine. Repel allows firearms to shoot bullets with magic power. 5 of 5. Regenerates a bullet every 60 seconds. Magic cartridge. Tracking allows firearms to shoot bullets with magic power. 5 of 5. Regenerates a bullet every 60 seconds. Haha, how is it? Isn't it awesome? Wang Yu showed the 3 magazines. Molly was stunned for a moment before she asked, "How do I use this thing?" This question stumped Wang Yu. Up until now, the only firearms Wang Yu had seen were flintlocks. However, those were all equipment that dropped. The magazine and gun were one and could not be replaced. Do I have to kill the Dragon Blood Spear God again and get a gun? Wang Yu thought to himself. However, Wang Yu quickly rejected this idea, putting aside when the Dragon Blood Spear God would respawn. Even if it did respawn, there was no guarantee that it would drop a gun. If he really killed the Dragon Blood Spear God several times, wouldn't the giant dragons come and massacre the city? He already had so much trouble fighting a level 35 boss. If a bunch of level 200 bosses came, this game would be unplayable. Thinking of this, Wang Yu sighed and put the 3 magazines back into his pocket. No matter what, it was his first time making something. Even if it was useless trash, it was still memorable. Go ahead, I'll go next door. After spending so much effort to make something like this, Wang Yu's face was burning. He awkwardly said goodbye to Ma Li and went out of the forging room. Then, he teleported to Yu Huicheng. Without experience, there would be no motivation. This saying seemed to be true. After his experience was blocked, Wang Yu did not even bother to leave the city gate. He put up his account in Central Street and set up a stall. Then, he logged off and went to the official forum to look for clues about the quest. Mu Zixian was only a small GM. Her knowledge was limited to the things that players had developed. She had no right to know about such a high-level hidden quest chain. So, Wang Yu had to do it himself. Old Man Hermit had said that the so-called hell was a hell mode instance dungeon. Then, for the remaining 4 bosses, he had to put some effort into it. Darkness, Holy Light, Titan, Killer. With these 4 words as the keywords, Wang Yu started searching on the forum. Darkness and Holy Light were 2 of the more common terms. After searching for a while, there were actually dozens of them. After thinking about it, Wang Yu finally decided on 4 cities. Darkness City, on the other side of the continent, on the opposite side of Sky Dragon City. It was said to be the entrance to the demon realm. It was on the westernmost side of the continent, which was the western part of the 2nd district. Holy Light City, the largest human city. It was in the center of the continent, the 5th district of China. Titan City, the northernmost area, the Glacier of Despair, the 15th district of China. Sin City, the southern part of the continent, the Wandering Place, the 6th district of China. After memorizing the names of these cities, Wang Yu returned to the game. Not long after, Chun Xiang's message rang in the Chuanjin Guild channel. The Wandering Musketeers have spawned in Yin Boss. Everyone come quickly. Everyone, wait for me. After casually replying, Wang Yu ran towards the Wandering Musketeers camp. When he arrived at the camp, the leveling area was already surrounded by quite a few people. Wu Ji and the others were standing outside with their arms crossed. Which guild is fighting? Wang Yu asked. Blood Alliance and Invincible Long Song. Mingdu cursed, Motherf *Ker, these bastards. Yesterday, they were fighting to the death, and today, they're working together to farm yen. They really don't have any integrity. It was rare for Old Li to talk about integrity. Wu Ji smiled as he asked Wang Yu, Iron Ox, go say hi to them, why me? Wang Yu saw Wu Ji squint his eyes and knew that this brat wanted to play dirty again. Wu Ji smiled and said, because you need points. Don't you guys need them? If we don't have any bosses to fight, we can still go level. Apart from getting points, what else can you do? I'm doing this for your own good. *CK. Wang Yu looked at Wu Ji with disdain and walked forward, waving his hand and shouting, hello everyone. Hearing Wang Yu's voice, the 2 guilds turned around and saw Chuanjin's group. Their moods instantly became gloomy. They cursed in their hearts. Motherf *Ker. Are these guys here to steal the boss? I don't know if we can do it. It seemed like yesterday's battle had left a shadow in these 2 guild leaders. Right now, they had close to 100 people, but they were afraid that they couldn't beat a mere 8 people. Chapter 1:13. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Boss Wu Ji, what's the meaning of this? Blood Red War Flag and 2012 walked over to Chuanjin after the battle. Over 100 people were farming Nian beasts. It was not obvious that 2 people were missing. When Wu Ji saw their expressions, he smiled and said, nothing much. I just want to get some points. I wonder if the 2 of you are willing? Blood Red War Flag was slightly older and had many years of experience as a guild leader. They naturally knew that good shoes should not step on smelly shoes. At this time, they were not in a hurry to refuse. Instead, they thought about it. It was not a problem to add 8 people to Chuanjin, but it did not make sense to have someone else interfere. This put Blood Red War Flag in a difficult position. to place one's pride was not much older than 2012. When he heard Wuji say that he wanted to forcefully get points, he was immediately unhappy. He pointed at Wuji and said, "How can you be so shameless?" Everyone was silent as they thought to themselves, "You are really ignorant and ill-informed." Wuji smiled and said, "Guild Leader 2012, what are you saying? We are all from the same city. It is fate that we meet. Who doesn't have inconveniences? As long as you make things convenient for us, we will make things convenient for you." As he said this, Wuji raised his eyebrows and looked at Wang Yu. Wang Yu smiled at 2012. Seeing Wang Yu's face, 2012 felt a chill in his heart. This face was simply a nightmare. It mercilessly destroyed the confidence of 2012's expert. Although it was not the same person, this one was more terrifying than the other. "What if I say no?" 2012 asked weakly. Wuji smiled and said, "It's okay. We will watch from here. If you can't do it, we will lend a hand. Don't thank us. We, Chuanjin, have always done good deeds to win people over." "Literature building, what are you talking about? Come on, join the team, join the team." When Wuji said this, the hairs on the back of 2012 stood up. He looked at the blood-red war flag and quickly sent a team invitation to the 8 members of the Quanjin sect. "Thank you, guild leaders," Wuji said with a smile. It's nothing. Both blood-red war flag and 2012 had tears streaming down their faces. Wuji said, "But we can't fight like this." "Why not?" Blood-red war flag and 2012 quickly asked. Although Chuanjin's character wasn't very good, their strength was obvious to all. As the first guild to kill the Nian boss, it had been announced to the world. "There are too many people. We need to kick a few of them out." "How much?" The 2 guild leaders hesitated for a moment before asking. They were all brothers of the same guild. It wouldn't be good to kick anyone out at this time. 2. It's just 2 people. Can they really affect the battle? Blood-red war flag asked. "No, just 2 of your guild members will be enough." Wuji said, "The Nian points will decrease after a certain amount. Instead of wasting everyone's time, it's better to let them do their own things." Motherf **** 2012 was impulsive again and cursed. Damn it. Not only did he shamelessly try to earn guild points, he even wanted his own guild members to scram. What was the difference between this and daylight robbery? "Let's talk this out. Don't curse." Wang Yu tried to smooth things over. Seeing Wang Yu, the 2 people from Blood-Red War Flag fell silent again. Was this a form of intimidation? "Boss Wuji, this doesn't make sense. This boss was discovered by us. If you make our people leave, our brothers won't be happy." Blood-Red War Flag said awkwardly. Wuji laughed and said, "It's okay. You can give me the leader position. I'm not afraid of offending anyone." Forget it. We're brothers. Let's talk amongst ourselves." Blood-Red War Flag sighed helplessly and said in the guild channel, "Everyone retreat. Chuanjin is here to steal the boss." The people that Blood-Red War Flag brought had almost all been killed by Wang Yu before. Seeing that it was Chuanjin's people who were here to steal the boss, they could only curse and retreat. The people from Unmatched Longsong were not so easy to deal with. A few of them rushed up to slap Wuji, but before they could even take 2 steps, they were pierced through by Mingdu's thunder spear. Looking at everyone's shocked eyes, Wuji pointed at Wang Yu and said, "This guy is the weakest in Chuanjin. If you're not convinced, you can come and try." The people from Unmatched Longsong were all dumbfounded. Such an expert was the weakest. The rest of them looked at Wuji in fear, and the rest also retreated. In the Chuanjin channel, to place one's pride said, "Wuji, aren't you afraid of the wrath of the heavens for saying this?" Wuji said, "What wrath of the heavens? Isn't Iron Ox a newbie? Who are they going to blame if they don't understand?" Wang Yu was puzzled. Why don't they give the leader position to you instead of offending their friend? Chun Xiang smiled wretchedly. With Wuji's personality, if he really gave the leader position to him, he would probably kick him out when Nian hits the last hit. Damn, you guys are so evil. Wang Yu was sweating. Compared to Wuji, he really was not good enough. After joining the party, Chun Xiang summoned Imp and Yin Lao Air used Shield Strike to charge. The two pulled the aggro from each side, and the players from the two big guilds retreated. Blood Red War Flag and 2012 hated Chuanjin for stealing the boss. They didn't dare say anything, but their actions were very obvious. The two of them stood at the back and did nothing. If 2012 was an archer, it would be fine if he stood at the back, but Blood Red War Flag, a paladin, was also standing at the back. Wasn't it obvious that they were slacking? Chuanjin and the others couldn't be bothered with them. Wang Yu rushed to the front and helped Chun Xiang and 2012 draw the aggro. To place one's pride, Ming Jiandao Su and Bao San took out their guns and started shooting. Everything was done in an orderly manner. The two people who wanted to watch the show saw what a true expert was. The shooting from the guns caused Nian to panic, and it started to go berserk. Blood Red War Flag was overjoyed and privately messaged 2012. Haha, Nian is going berserk. They're done for. 2012 also said excitedly, this is retribution. Even the system can't bear to watch this. However, the two of them were only happy for 3 seconds when they saw Chuanjin's people take a few steps back and take out firecrackers. Crackle. After a series of attacks, the Nian beast was beaten to death by these fellows. System notification. You have obtained 10,000 New Year points. Looking at the system notification, although there were 10,000 points, Blood Red War Flag and 2012 did not feel happy at all. This was because after the items dropped by the Chuanjin sect were picked up by the people from the Chuanjin sect, this group of people immediately left the party and left as if nothing had happened. Why are they leaving? There are still 2 people who haven't split the loot yet. Blood Red War Flag quickly private messaged Wuji. 10,000 points isn't enough? Let's see what your DPS is. Wuji replied coldly. But this boss is ours. Blood Red War Flag replied, feeling wronged. System notification. Message has not been sent. The other party has blacklisted you. F***CK me. Chuanjin ********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* exposed the use of firecrackers in front of them. Wuji said disdainfully, "TSK, do you think everyone is stupid? It's already been 3 days. Someone must have discovered this secret." Mingji and Daoshua said, "That's right. It's not as easy to collect firecrackers and fireworks as it was yesterday." "Then what do we do? Doesn't that mean that any party can kill Nian as long as they have firecrackers?" In Lao Air was very depressed. He had planned to use this secret to get the grand prize after the event ended. "That's easy, Daoshua. Go to the main altar later and make this secret public," Wuji said. "Why?" Third Bao turned his head and asked. Shun Xiang laughed. "This way, the competition for killing the boss will increase, and no one will have more points than us." Everyone looked at Wuji. "You have such a dirty mind. Why did you choose the Clara class?" "Because God needs me. P.S. Hello everyone. I'm Third Bao. Please recommend me." Chapter 114. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. The people from Xuanzhen parted ways after walking for a short distance. After all, other than the two brothers, Wuji and Bao San, the others were used to training alone. Mingji and Daoshua, on the other hand, went to the forum to make a post. The miserable Wang Yu sighed and returned to the city. Wuji and the others wanted to help Wang Yu with the quest, but Wang Yu's quest only allowed 2 people to form a team. Moreover, the quest was so difficult, especially when they heard that the boss was like the Dragon Blood Spear god. Everyone agreed that they should do their own things. That was the way of a real man. Of course, Wang Yu wouldn't blame them for not being loyal. It was a boss in manual mode. It liked to attack the weakest people. Who would dare to guarantee that they were stronger than Wang Yu? Even if they went, they would just be cannon fodder. After thinking about it, Wang Yu decided to go to Holy Light City first. The main reason was that it was closer. Holy Light City's location was a bit like the imperial capital in real life. It would take 2 hours by train from L City to the imperial capital, but it would only take 20 minutes by airship from Yuhuicheng to Holy Light City. as expected of the largest human city in the game. When he arrived at Holy Light City, Wang Yu was completely stunned by this magnificent city. Compared to Holy Light City, Yuhuicheng was just an 18th-tier county. Not only was Holy Light City huge, but the most shocking thing was that Holy Light City actually reared monsters for the players to train. Level 15 to 20 monster areas were demarcated in the city. The players bathed in holy light as they fought monsters and chatted. It was much more fashionable than the countryside cities like Yuhuicheng. Even the level 15 Scarlet Church was in the city opposite the priest monastery. At this time, the entrance of the instance dungeon was filled with people. Level 15 normal dungeon, level 3, level 2, Grandmaster combat, go away, level 15 elite dungeon, expert leading the team, missing an elite expert, Grandmaster of combat, go away. The incessant shouts made Wang Yu extremely depressed. It seemed like Grandmasters of combat were not welcomed anywhere they went. Since it was the wings of holy light, it definitely had to find a monster with the light attribute. This made Wang Yu depressed. The light attribute. Just by looking at its attributes, it was obvious that it was from the Light faction. The largest religion in Rebirth, the Holy Church of Light, was based in Holy Light City. The NPC residents here also looked up to the Holy Light. Wang Yu suddenly felt a sense of unease when he heard that he was looking for the wings of Holy Light in the quest. After running around the city for half a day without finding any clues, Wang Yu decided to take a look outside the city. Although everyone in Light City looked up to the Holy Light, the large guilds here were no different from those in other cities. They did not have the slightest bit of sunshine in their hearts. The large guilds had divided the level 25 leveling areas outside of the city into sections. There was no place for ordinary players to set foot in. Just as Wang Yu was about to pass through the monster area to find the quest boss, he suddenly heard a commotion behind him. "Catch her! Don't let her escape. I'll pay 100 gold coins to anyone who catches that girl." Wang Yu turned around and saw a petite masked woman running out of the city gate, followed by a large group of players. The leader of the people chasing after the girl was a guardian knight. The knight held a gold-grade staff that glowed with a golden light. His equipment glowed with a blue light, making him look rather flashy. The players behind the knight were also well-equipped. Each of them had at least 2 pieces of silver-grade equipment. This surprised Wang Yu. In this day and age, steel-grade equipment had not yet become the mainstream. Most of the high-level players only had bronze-grade equipment, and those with 1 or 2 pieces of silver-grade equipment were experts. It should be known that most of the experts in Xuanzhen had a mix of bronze-grade and silver-grade equipment. Wang Yu turned his gaze back to the woman. He squinted his eyes and muttered in confusion. "This figure looks a little familiar." Although the woman was in a sorry state, she was able to dodge the opponent's long-range attacks every time. In the game's holographic mode, there were very few players who could effectively dodge attacks. This woman's technique seemed to be top-notch. "What are you looking at? Help me." The woman looked up and saw Wang Yu not far away. A hint of joy flashed in her eyes, and she hurriedly shouted at Wang Yu. "Me?" Wang Yu pointed at himself in surprise and asked the woman, "Of course. Is there anyone else around you?" The woman was extremely fast, and in a flash, she had run behind Wang Yu. Wang Yu looked around. Originally, there were quite a few players around her, but when she saw the people chasing after her, she was the only one left. Ugh, the voice is also familiar. Wang Yu continued to be puzzled. The players on the other side quickly caught up to Wang Yu. Seeing Wang Yu block the woman, the leading knight walked forward with a gloomy expression. He extended the scepter in his hand, pointed at Wang Yu, and asked, "Are you that woman's accomplice?" Wang Yu tilted his head and looked at the bastard. He didn't say anything and thought to himself, with a scepter in his hand, he really thinks he's the Pope. When I was in Yuhuicheng, even Blood Red War Flag didn't act so arrogantly when they saw me. "I'm asking you a question. Are you mute?" Seeing Wang Yu ignore the knight, the subordinate behind the knight was unhappy. He raised his hand and shot an arrow. System notification. You have been maliciously attacked by Beijing's young Master Hua's team. You have 90 seconds to defend yourself. Wang Yu chuckled and knocked the arrow away. He said calmly, "I don't Wang Yu wanted to say that he didn't know the girl, but the girl quickly stuck her head out and interrupted Wang Yu's words. She shouted, "He's my brother. Who the F asterisk CK is your brother?" Wang Yu's face was full of black lines. He turned his head and asked in a low voice. The Wang family was so big, and all the uncles and uncles were sons. There were no girls at all. A little sister popped out of nowhere. It was really a pain in the ass. "You?" The girl smiled slyly and then shouted, "Brother, they bullied me." "Sorry, you got the wrong person." Wang Yu glared at the girl and turned to leave. If the girl stood behind Wang Yu honestly, with Wang Yu's kindness, he might have helped her. But she actually played this trick with Wang Yu. She obviously underestimated Wang Yu's character. Chuanjin's people were shameless, but they would never do such a thing. They just met by chance, and they wanted to frame him. It was really too hateful. Beijing's young master Hua was not stupid. When he saw Wang Yu casually swatting away the arrow, he knew that he was an expert. So when he saw Wang Yu leave, he was slightly surprised. He then pointed at the girl and scolded, "Humph. B asterisk TCH, I don't even know you. Hurry up and hand over the holy item in your hand, and then come with me to the judge to ask for punishment." Holy item? Wang Yu was slightly stunned and stopped. The current Wang Yu was very sensitive to things with the word holy in it. Seeing that Wang Yu stopped, the girl said happily, "I knew you wouldn't leave me alone. What's a holy item?" Wang Yu asked. Hearing Wang Yu's words, the girl was confused. "You also want my holy item?" Wang Yu smiled and said, "I'm just curious. If you don't want to let me see, then forget it. I'm leaving." Wang Yu really couldn't take advantage of the situation. The girl said anxiously, "Are you really going to leave me alone?" Wang Yu said, "Big sister, we aren't even close. Don't say it so ambiguously. Then can you lend me a weapon?" The girl begged. "What's your profession?" "Archer. Give it back when you're done." Wang Yu threw an orange crossbow to the girl. Chapter 115. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. "You're so generous." The girl took the bow and looked at its attributes. She was slightly startled and said with a smile, "Aren't you afraid that I'll run?" What Wang Yu threw over was Fire Dragon's Tooth, the only dark gold equipment in the game, and it was a level 15 equipment that was suitable for the season. At this time of the year, it was the #1 artifact in the game. Equipment was more valuable than life. Such a precious thing, yet Wang Yu casually lent it to someone else. It was unknown whether he was really fearless or just stupid. "Literature building, you can try," Wang Yu said with a smile, but there was a flash of panic in his eyes. After all, this guy was a newbie in the game, so he didn't have the awareness of those experienced players. So he forgot about this. "Look at how scared you are." That lady chuckled, lifted her leg, and rushed out. What surprised Wang Yu was that this lady didn't run in the opposite direction, but directly towards it. "Oh, that's quite arrogant. You want to fight us alone?" Seeing that the girl was directly facing them, the Beijing young master Hua's group was slightly stunned. Then they laughed. The surrounding players at the city gate also observed a moment of silence for the girl. "If you want to die, why don't you just run into the mob? Why provoke those guys?" Beijing young master Hua was a famous villain in Holy Light City. He was one of the 4 founders of Holy Light City's #1 guild, Royal Root. These 4 people were said to be rich young masters, known as the 4 young masters of Holy Light. The 4 young masters of Holy Light were pure money players, and they had a group of professional fighters equipped with the best equipment. No guild in Holy Light City dared to provoke them. Even the boss of Safflower headquarters, Yu Wanting, who was ranked 5th in the country, had to take a detour when he saw them. Why would a little archer, and a girl at that, provoke them? However, the lady's strength made everyone shut their mouths. Archers were an agility-focused class, so players of this class were generally very fast. However, not only was this girl fast, but her movement techniques were also very strange. She could always dodge her opponent's attacks easily, then fire her crossbow bolts when there was an opening. What shocked these people the most was that this girl was only 3 meters away from capital city's young Master Hua. An archer was actually able to pin down a group of well-equipped experts at a distance of 3 meters. This was simply unheard of. Hee 7 astral steps. When Wang Yu saw this scene, he immediately understood. No wonder this girl felt so familiar. So it turned out that this girl was Yang Na. The 7 steps of the astral dipper was a unique movement technique of the Yang clan. It focused on entangling, sticking, dodging, and sudden attacks. Even a great expert like Wang Yu would find it difficult to escape once he was entangled. Of course, for Wang Yu, Yang Na's level was still not high enough. It wasn't that there weren't people who could entangle Wang Yu. The Yang clan's 12th generation ancestor was a rare genius, probably able to stand up to Wang Yu as an equal. However, if Grandfather Yang was still alive, he would be 300 or 400 years old. Yang Na's 7 steps of the astral dipper was only 30% of the standard, but against these ordinary people who didn't know martial arts, it was still a piece of cake. After a few rounds, Capital City's young Master Hua's men had been killed. CK. Not bad. Capital City's young Master Hua waved the scepter in his hand, and a milky white halo covered everyone's head. Those people's HP that had been whittled down by Yang Na slowly recovered, and their speed also increased by a lot. Literature building. This was Blessing Halo, a Guardian Knight's level 15 skill. It increased all attributes for a short period of time. Capital City's young Master Hua's weapon was of the highest quality, so his Blessing Halo was not only powerful, but also lasted for a long time, a full 2 minutes. When the halo descended, Capital City's young Master Hua's 4 warriors quickly moved forward, forming 2 rows to form a square formation, and rushed towards Yang Na. Rebirth had been released for a long time, and players had more or less concluded some PvP strategies. Capital City's young Master Hua's people were all professional players, and they were experts in this field. Of the 4 warriors, 2 carried shields, and 2 carried swords. The shield was in front, the sword was behind, and the shield was hidden behind. It was a combination of attack and defense. Godly Archer's level 15 dodge skill allowed them to move 50 yards, and when 2 warriors collided side by side, it was just enough to seal them off. The shield warriors in the front row would use charge and shield bash to stun the enemy, while the weapon warriors in the back would use charge and double slash, and the back row would support the damage output. No matter how strong a person was, they would die on the spot if they were hit head-on. The 4 warriors arrived in a flash. Yang Na chuckled and used Aura Alcade to dodge half a meter back. When the 4 warriors saw Yang Na move back, they couldn't help but think, charge distance is 300 yards, dodge distance is 50 yards, what's the use of moving back? Pop! There was a soft sound. Before the 4 warriors could react, the 2 shield warriors in front were frozen in place, and the 2 weapon warriors in the back crashed into the 2 in front. Players in the same team attacked each other. Although there was no damage, there was an effect. The 4 metal cans creaked and fell into a pile. Lurker's level 10 skill, Trap. Capital City's Hua Sha was shocked. How is this possible? Isn't she a godly archer? How can it be a trap? However, Capital City's young Master Hua immediately laughed. Do you think this is the end? How naive. Wang Yu, who was watching from the back, glanced at Capital City's young Master Hua's team and suddenly raised his eyebrows. 2 people were missing. As expected, just as Yang Na was about to shoot a few more arrows at the 4 warriors, 2 figures suddenly appeared behind Yang Na. Be careful, Wang Yu exclaimed, and used Night Leap to flash over. With a wave of his hand, a white gas rolled out and pulled Yang Na in front of him. The 2 bandits' backstab missed, and Capital City's young Master Hua's face immediately turned ugly. Brother, this has nothing to do with you. I didn't before, but I do now. Wang Yu threw Yang Na to the side and replied. No matter how much Wang Yu hated Yang Na, this lady was still someone he knew in real life, so he should help her out. You didn't give me face in Holy Light City? Capital City's young Master Hua stared at Wang Yu angrily. Although Capital City's young Master Hua's skills weren't that great, he had seen pigs run before. Seeing Wang Yu teleporting and catching people in one go, and such a skill was unheard of, he knew that Wang Yu was an expert. Rich second generations weren't stupid. If it wasn't necessary, he really didn't want to provoke Wang Yu. Otherwise, with capital city's young Master Hua's temper, he wouldn't have talked nonsense with Wang Yu, and would have gotten people to kill Wang Yu long ago. Wang Yu laughed. Face isn't given by others, it's lost by yourself. Capital city's young Master Hua coldly snorted, pointed at Wang Yu, and said to his subordinates, "Humph, kill him too." These people couldn't even deal with Yang Na, an archer. At such a close distance, wanting to deal with Wang Yu was wishful thinking. Wang Yu lightly leaped forward and rushed in front of Capital City's young Master Hua. Capital City's young Master Hua swung his scepter at his head, but Wang Yu grabbed his wrist with his right hand and twisted it down, causing the scepter to fall. Wang Yu caught the scepter with his left hand and threw it into his bag. His right hand suddenly lifted up, supporting Capital City's young Master Hua's chin. Capital City's young Master Hua directly leaned back. This guy was really good at taking a beating. Wang Yu's subordinates rarely had a match with him. Without waiting for Capital City's young Master Hua to land, Wang Yu's left palm struck forward and falling cloud palm flew out, imprinting on Capital City's young Master Hua's face. Capital City's young Master Hua, who was low on health, was turned into a white light. Chapter 116. If you actually killed young Master Hua and stole his holy light scepter. Seeing Wang Yu kill people and rob them with a raise of his hand, those underlings of young Master Hua were all dumbfounded. What? Do you have a problem with that? Wang Yu turned his head and asked. There were only a few gold-grade equipment in the entire server. How could others not have a problem with Wang Yu snatching it so openly? Everyone was scared by Wang Yu's glare and quickly put their weapons into their bags. No, what a joke. These people were earning money to eat. The equipment on them also belonged to the boss. If it was stolen, their wages would be deducted. Anyway, the boss was already dead. No matter how hard they tried, the boss would not be able to see them. Why would they risk their lives? Wang Yu nodded with satisfaction. If you don't have it, then go back. It's not good to block the city gate. These people had already lost the will to fight. Now that they heard Wang Yu's words, it was as if they had been granted amnesty. They hurriedly left. Seeing that everyone had left, Wang Yu turned around and stared at Yang Na. Return my weapon. Yang Na played with the fire dragon tooth and smiled. This weapon is not bad. It suits me. If you want it, then buy it with money. Wang Yu said coldly. This was a dark gold-grade equipment. Famous sword Daoxu has said that it could not be sold for less than 500,000. How much? 1 million. Wang Yu asked for an exorbitant price. He knew that Yang Na was not short of money. F***CK, do you have any shame? A broken level 15 weapon, and you want 1 million from me. If you think it's broken, return it to me. What can you do to me if I don't give it to you? Yang Na flipped her hand and stuffed the fire dragon tooth into her bag. She said proudly, You can't run as fast as me. Wang Yu said, I can unplug your house's internet cable. You recognize who I am? Yang Na asked in surprise. She was wearing a mask. Wang Yu said disdainfully, You but is so ugly. How can I not recognize you? Hurry up and take that thing off your face. It looks awkward. Yang Na hurriedly said, I can't take it off. This is a mission item. If I take it off, all the guards in the city will come to arrest me. What sin have you committed? How did you become the public enemy? Wang Yu was shocked. Hidden Class Quest. Yang Na showed the quest to Wang Yu. Night Soul's Third Ring. Mission Level A, Forgotten Holy Artifact. Go to the church's Court of Heresy and steal the Holy Magic Stone. 0 to 1. Can be completed in a team of 2. You've changed to a hidden class? Yes, Demon Hunter. Yang Na said, The magistrate's boss is called Heretic Inquisitor Willie. He is a level 35 boss and is quite powerful. My weapon was broken by him. The durability of weapons in Rebirth was a hidden attribute. If it encountered a very strong attack, it would be destroyed. Even the bow and arrow were destroyed. It seemed like this boss was quite wild. Who's after you? Wang Yu asked Yang Na. Yang Na said, One of the 4 young masters of the Holy Light from Royal City Route. That kid also seems to have a hidden class. I vaguely heard others say that he's called Templar. His quest this time is a two-way street. Wang Yu frowned. That can't be. Aren't the hidden class induction quests extremely difficult? How can he pass it with his skills? He's rich. He could spend a lot of money, and he has many underlings to block knives for him. Speaking of which, why are you here? Yang Na asked Wang Yu in return. It's also a quest. Wang Yu also showed her his quest, S-rank quest, 5 bosses. You're so pitiful. Yang Na saw Wang Yu's quest and sympathized with him. The Demon Hunter's hidden class quest was only A rank, and it already gave Yang Na a headache. Wang Yu, on the other hand, was actually S rank. He had to deal with 5 high-level bosses. His luck was really out of this world. S rank, that was a legendary existence that could not be completed. Wang Yu smiled bitterly. It's all right, it's all right. Where's the Heresy Tribunal ? Wang Yu did not find any light attribute monsters in the entire Holy Light City. But Yang Na said that there was a level 35 boss in the Heresy Tribunal, and it immediately attracted Wang Yu's attention. A level 35 boss. Wasn't the Dragon Blood Spear god a level 35 boss? Could it be that this was the breakthrough he was looking for? In the Holy Light Court, Yang Na said, "Oh, no wonder." Wang Yu nodded in understanding. The Holy Light Court was the main hub of Holy Light City. It was equivalent to other cities' municipal governments, so Wang Yu skipped over it without thinking. After all, how could there be monsters in the municipal government? However, Wang Yu had forgotten that Holy Light City could raise monsters. It was not surprising that there was a light attribute boss in the municipal government. Bring me there. I feel that our quest seems to have the same goal. Wang Yu said seriously. Yang Na pouted. Don't flatter me. How can a petty thief like me compare to a fierce boss like you? Right now, I just hope that our missions don't clash. Why? Do you know that ladies first? You have no manners? Wang Yu laughed. It's just a game. Why take it so seriously? F***CKU. Yang Na gave Wang Yu the middle finger. In the guild office of Holy Light City's royal roots, capital city's young Master Hua, who had been slapped to death by Wang Yu, was furious. He pointed at his subordinates and scolded. You trash. How could you let them get away? The first subordinate lowered his head and said, That guy's too strong. We can't beat him. Bullsh *T. Aren't you all professional players? You can't even deal with a Chi master. Capital City's young Master Hua saw that his subordinates still dare to talk back, and he became even angrier. From the moment Wang Yu attacked to the moment he killed Capital City's young Master Hua, he had only used a few skills. Grabbing and hitting people were all long-range attacks, so Capital City's young Master Hua treated him as a Chi Master. The position of Chi Masters in Rebirth was very awkward. Strikers had strong crowd control, and with plate armor, they could walk the path of a tank. On the other hand, Chi Masters had short hands, thin skin, and low attack. They were known as the trash of trash. A bunch of professional players said that Chi Masters were too strong. How could Capital City's young Master Hua accept this? Boss, you don't know. That son of a B** TCH knows empty hand snatch. We didn't even dare to cut him. The second subordinate said with lingering fear. Empty hand snatch? Is there such a skill? Boss, be reasonable. Don't you think you're missing something? Missing something? F***CK. My Holy Light Scepter. Capital City's young Master Hua was reminded, and immediately lowered his head to check what he was missing, only to find that his main hand was empty. The subordinates were speechless. Most people would subconsciously check what they lost when they died. Capital City's young Master Hua was protected since he was level 1 and had never died before. Now that he died, he didn't even check if he dropped any equipment. The subordinates were speechless. Capital City's young Master Hua roared. F***CK. I'm irreconcilable with those two B***cheese. That Holy Light Scepter was a high-grade equipment gifted to Capital City's young Master Hua by his profession. In order to create this Templar hidden profession, Capital City's young Master Hua had donated a lot of contribution points to the Holy Court. All the contribution points were exchanged with real money. That holy light scepter was the last bit of reward. It was actually snatched away. Capital City's young master Hua's mood was absolutely F***ed up. Capital City's young master Hua was going crazy when one of his subordinates suddenly ran into the office. "Boss, young Master Chen is here. P.S. Hello everyone. I'm late again. Please give me a recommendation vote." Chapter 117. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Before the underling could finish, a young man pushed open the door and walked in. The young man was thin and had delicate features. Compared to Hua Xiao in Beijing, he looked less like a playboy and more mature. This person was the leader of the 4 young masters of Holy Light, Eternal Silent Dawn, also known as Young Master Dawn. Of course, Young Master Dawn always thought of himself as the one with the most taste and brains. In order to show off his personality, his name was not as vulgar as the other 3. "What are you doing here?" Hua Xiao saw Eternal Silent Dawn, and his expression was even worse than before. It was true that the 4 young masters of Holy Light had a good relationship, but the closer they were, the more likely they were to hit someone when they were down. As expected, Eternal Silent Dawn heard this and laughed. "I heard that Hua Xiao was stepped on, so I came here to gloat. F***CKU. Hua Xiao glared fiercely at Eternal Silent Dawn and scolded unhappily. He knew that this brat was up to no good. Eternal Silent Dawn spread his hands and laughed shamelessly. "I'm your father. You can scold me all you want." Hua Xiao was furious. "You're not done yet, huh?" Eternal Silent Dawn laughed and then asked with a straight face, "What's going on? Aren't you doing a mission? You can't even deal with a girl?" Hua Xiao said gloomily, "I was about to succeed, but who knew that a busybody would suddenly appear and snatch my scepter away?" "Snatched? What do you mean?" Eternal Silent Dawn felt that the word snatch, used by Hua Xiao, was very emotional. "He snatched it away from me," Hua Xiao said. F***CK. There's such a shameless skill. Who is that person? He's so arrogant that he even dared to touch you in Holy Light City? Eternal Silent Dawn asked after a moment of surprise. It would have been better if he didn't mention this, but Hua Xiao became even more sullen. "How the F***CK would I know? We attacked him first, and he killed me without leaving a name. You're such an unlucky child." Eternal Silence sighed as he lamented his misfortune. "Shunge, didn't you say you were the smartest out of the 4 of us? You have to help me this time. In order to donate contribution points, I've taken out all my family's assets to get a scepter," young Master Hua said with a bitter face. Eternal Silent Dawn narrowed his eyes and said, "Of course. If he doesn't respect you, that means he doesn't respect us, the 4 young masters of Holy Light. If we don't teach him a lesson, we, the Royal City Route, will not be able to survive. Then, Xingge, what should we do next? That girl must have accepted a quest that's completely opposite of yours. As long as we find that girl, the person who killed you won't be able to get far." Eternal Silence said. "But I don't know what that chick's name is." Hua Xiao muttered. "What's your mission?" "Snatch back the other demonic holy stone that was stolen many years ago." "What about the last one? Do you know where it is?" Eternal Silence asked. "It's in the hands of the presiding judge, right? Isn't that it? That chick's mission must be to steal the other demonic holy stone, so all we have to do is wait near the holy court." Eternal Silence said matter-of-factly. When Hua Xiao heard that they didn't have to look all over the world to lure Wang Yu and Chun go into a trap, he could not help but give thumbs up and praised, "Why didn't I think of that? Chun-gu is so smart." "Of course." Eternal Silence smiled. In the background of Rebirth, the Holy Court of Light was originally the largest and only faith of mankind. The entire Light faction was born because of them. Everyone who looked up to the Holy Light firmly believed that the Holy Court of Light was the ruler of mankind. When the cataclysm came, only the light could dispel the darkness and allow mankind to live on. Many years of extreme religious worship caused the Holy Court of Light to become arrogant. They could not tolerate the existence of other forces. All forces that were not of the light were considered heresy. Hence, The Holy Court established the Heresy Tribunal to judge those that they viewed as heresy. Unfortunately, before the Heresy Tribunal could take action, darkness descended on the continent. 7 heroes fought side by side and led mankind to repel the first dark invasion. Because of this, mankind's faith began to waver. They no longer looked up to the holy light, and the Holy Court lost the right to judge other forces. However, the Heresy Tribunal did survive and became a violent organization of the Holy Court, specializing in combat matters. Until the Second Dark Invasion, as a professional combat system of the Holy Court, the combat power of the Heresy Tribunal was unquestionable. The level 30 paladins in the tribunal were all paladins and priests. They could fight, defend, heal, and deal damage. Moreover, according to the background story, they were instilled with extreme faith since childhood. Their bodies and souls belonged to their god. Like war machines, they would fight to the last drop of blood. They were quite difficult to deal with. The presiding Judge Willie was a grand priest who specialized in combat. Hence, in Holy Light City, if anyone dared to question the Pope, no one would dare to question the presiding Judge Willie. One of the demonic holy stones was on Willie's sword. On the way to the Holy Court with Wang Yu, Yang Na introduced the background story of her mission to Wang Yu. That's amazing. Your mentor is much more reliable than my mentor. Wang Yu wasn't interested in the game's cliché background. Instead, she felt indignant towards Old Man Hermit. She had been feeding that old man well, but he wasn't even willing to give her a hint about the quest. Look at his mentor. He was afraid that his successor wouldn't be able to complete the quest, so he was eager to give her a guide. Yang Na smiled and said, "The Demon Hunter is one of the 7 heroes. Of course he's reliable." The two chatted as they walked. It didn't take long for them to reach the entrance of the Holy Court. "Not good. They're ambushing us." Yang Na suddenly pulled Wang Yu back. "Where?" Wang Yu asked. There were only a few players sitting cross-legged in front of the Holy Court. He didn't feel any killing intent. Those players are... Isn't it suspicious for them to sit quietly in front of the Holy Court? Wang Yu said, "It can't be. The entrance of our Yu Huicheng City Hall is like a wet market every day. How can a rural city compare to the Holy Court? The Holy Court is very domineering. The place of God can't be too noisy. If the security exceeds a certain value, the player's honor points will be deducted." Yang Na explained. She had done a lot of research for her mission. She even knew the time when the guards changed shifts. Wang Yu heard this and glanced at the players in front of the Holy Court. It was as Yang Na said. The players were unusually quiet. Wang Yu then said, "There are only a dozen of them. Can't the 2 of us beat them?" Yang Na shook her head and said, "These players are very cunning. It's true that there are a dozen of them on the surface, but who knows how many are hiding in the dark. Besides, if we fight in front of the Holy Court, the Holy Knights will definitely come out to clear the place. They couldn't even make a ruckus in front of the Holy Court, let alone fight." Wang Yu rolled up his sleeves and said eagerly, "Dying only gives 10% experience. What if we can sneak in?" This guy didn't care about his life at all in the game. Yang Na decisively rejected Wang Yu's idea. She warned Wang Yu sternly, "No, my Holy Mana Stone is a quest item. It has a 100% drop rate. We have to think of a way to get rid of them." Chapter 118. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with wonderful novels to read. Think of a way. This kind of thing was easy to say, but it was more difficult to implement. The Wang family was a martial arts family. Using violence to fight violence was their family's tradition. For Wang Yu, using his brain was easier than letting him fight the boss alone. Although Yang Na's chest was not big, her brain capacity was not much bigger than Wang Yu's. Besides, intelligence and wisdom were 2 different things. Especially in this kind of matter, a god who could calculate 9 digits in his mind was not necessarily better than a sinister and cunning little hoodlum. Royal City Root was the local tyrant of Holy Light City. Wang Yu killed their leader and stole their equipment. They naturally would not rest until Wang Yu was dead. Going over to discuss letting them leave would definitely not work. luring the tiger away from the mountain? That was even more nonsense. Who knew how many people were hiding at the entrance of Holy Court? No matter how awesome Wang Yu was, he did not have the confidence to solo a guild, especially those rich guilds that did not lack money. The two people squatted in the corner and racked their brains for a long time. Wang Yu said, "Do you have a way?" Yang Na said, "We can only kill them all." "Damn, I thought you were smart," Wang Yu said with disdain. So this girl was a jackal of the same tribe as him. Sighing, Wang Yu helplessly opened his friend's list and found Wuji and said, "Now that things have come to this, I can only ask for help outside." Wuji, this kid, was sinister and cunning. At this time, if he still could not come up with an idea, Wang Yu could only rush up and kill. "You still have a think tank?" Yang Na was quite surprised. "A think tank? Forget it." Wang Yu really wanted to say that Wuji was a wine bag, but after thinking about it, he still had to ask for help from this kid. Wouldn't he be worse than a wine bag? So he suppressed the contempt in his heart. "Brother Wuji, how had you been recently? I missed you after not seeing you for an hour, asking for help." Wang Yu, of course, had to say some good words. "Good your ass. If you have something to fart, hurry up and say it." Did he encounter something he couldn't solve? It's hard to imagine that there's something you can't solve. It was easier to talk to smart people. Before Wang Yu said anything, Wuji had already guessed it. "That's right. I was doing a quest, and then..." Wang Yu told Wuji everything that happened in Holy Light City in detail. After listening, Wuji quickly replied, "Tis TSK, you can't even solve such a simple matter, yet you call yourself the #1 master. You have a way?" Wang Yu said happily. "Tell me first who's stronger. You're amazing. Your whole family is powerful. Okay?" Wang Yu gritted his teeth and wanted to tear Wuji into pieces in his heart. This guy was too shameless. Wuji said proudly, "Haha, seeing that you're so honest, I'll give you some pointers. Have you ever heard of driving a tiger to swallow a wolf?" Wang Yu said angrily, "I've never been to school. Stop talking nonsense. I'm in a hurry." "Ha! Who do you think the guild players are most afraid of?" Wuji asked. "Me?" Wang Yu said shamelessly. "Literature building." Wuji was speechless and replied, "Don't flatter yourself. If they're afraid of you, they won't block you. They should be most afraid of the Holy Dynasty's NPCs." "So what?" Wang Yu was confused. He wasn't familiar with the Holy Court. So what ability did he have to make the tiger, the Holy Court, swallow the wolves of the Imperial City route? Did you forget? Making a ruckus near the Holy Dynasty will drop your honor points. What do you think will happen if you throw firecrackers into the Holy Dynasty? "I think I'll die." "Of course, if I die, you'll be buried with me." Wang Yu heard this, and his face darkened. This bastard is really up to no good. He's actually asking me to die. Wuji quickly said, "I didn't say you should go. Doesn't the girl beside you have a mask to hide her identity? Let her go." "Reliable?" "Of course. She has the Holy Magic Stone. No one will care if she walks around under the Holy Dynasty's nose. What's wrong with throwing firecrackers?" "Okay." After closing the chat, Wang Yu suddenly turned around. "How is it? Do you have an idea?" Yang Na asked. "Yes." Wang Yu repeated Wuji's words to Yang Na. Yang Na frowned and said, "My mask can indeed hide my identity, but shouldn't be able to fool the system. My B*TCH friend said that if you can fool the Holy Dynasty's NPCs, you can fool the system. Don't worry, although that B*TCH has a bad character, she's very cunning." Wang Yu said confidently. "So powerful, what's his name?" "He's called B*TCH. Wang Yu gritted his teeth and thought, "When I get back, I'll show you who's stronger." Yang Na was speechless. "Then I'll throw it now. Wait." Wang Yu stopped Yang Na and gave her a bunch of firecrackers and fireworks. He then ran away and sent a message to Yang Na. "It's done." Eternal Silence of Dawn was sitting at the entrance with the players from Royal City Route. Just as he was thinking about how to humiliate Wang Yu and get revenge for Beijing's Hua Xiao, the sudden sound of firecrackers pulled him out of his thoughts. System notification. Your guild is disturbing the peace of God. Holy Light City, honor -10. Currently neutral. System notification. Your guild is disturbing the peace of God. Holy Light City, honor -10. Currently average. System notification. Your guild is disturbing the peace of God. Holy Light City, honor -10. Currently hated. The system notified Eternal Silent Dawn 10 times in a row. Eternal Silent Dawn's reputation immediately dropped to disgust. He was dumbfounded. F***CK. What's going on? The other members of the Royal Root were stunned as well. I don't know. We've been talking in the guild channel. Do you think a god can peek into the guild channel? F***CK. My honor. It wasn't easy to get. Royal City Root's guild channel was filled with cries and wails. With this firecracker thrown out, the entire Royal City Root guild, whether they were at the entrance of the Holy Court or not, even the offline players, all lost 100 points of glory. Honor was related to the favorability of the NPCs in the main city towards the players. Whether or not they could receive hidden quests depended on it. One had to know that honor could only be obtained by clearing dungeons. Each dungeon gave anywhere from 1 to 5 points. It was quite difficult to obtain. The NPCs in Holy Light City were different from the NPCs in other neutral cities. Now that their honor had dropped by 100 points, Royal Root might not be able to survive in Holy Light City anymore. The firecrackers were very loud. Wanyu could hear them clearly from a street away. Wanyu sent a message to Yangna. Yangna didn't reply. Wanyu didn't dare to get closer. He could only ask Wuji. Wuji, will this work? Wuji replied calmly. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I've never done something like this before. F***CK. Do you know you're going to die like this? Wanyu was so angry that he started swearing. What are you afraid of? You're not the one who threw the firecrackers. You won't lose anything if you don't die. F***CK. Wanyu broke down. Wuji, I want to say something impulsive. I hope you don't mind. Just say it. You're such a scumbag. Bulge. P.S. Looking for tips, looking for recommendations. Speaking of which, why did it drop today? Chapter 119. Genius 1 Second Remember. Providing you with exciting novels to read. Just as Wuji had guessed, Yangna's face cloth had the effect of hiding herself and could make the system turn a blind eye to her. Literature building this girl threw all the firecrackers into the window of the Holy Court. Such a rebellious act was all counted on the nearest Royal City Root. Seeing that she didn't receive a notification of a drop in honor, but the Royal City Root players at the entrance panicked, Yangna was secretly happy. After throwing the firecrackers, she changed her position, smashed open the window, and threw the fireworks in her hand. The sound of fireworks was much stronger than firecrackers. Compared to firecrackers, it was the difference between cannons and bullets. The people at the Royal City Root had just calmed down and began to look for the person who did this, when they all received a message. System notification. Your guild has provoked the dignity of God. Honor -100, currently in hatred. The Holy Court will send out the Knights Templar to defend the glory of God. Main city notification. Royal City Root. Players have disrupted the Holy Court and provoked the dignity of God. They have become the public enemy of the entire city. Within 24 hours, killing Royal City Root, players will receive honor. The players at the Royal City Root received the notification and almost vomited blood. They only sat at the entrance of the Holy Temple for a while. Who the hell did they offend? Young Master Dawn, what do we do? The players at the Royal City Root all turned their gaze towards eternal silence. At the same time, they began to despise eternal silence in their hearts. Damn, it's all your fault. You just had to wait for the hare. You didn't catch the hare, and now you've brought trouble upon yourself. Even a wise man will make mistakes. Eternal Silence's face was serious as he defended himself. Then he lowered his head and began to think about how to solve this matter. The system didn't allow Eternal Silence to pretend to be deep in thought. At this time, a group of NPCs rushed out of the Holy Temple Hall. These NPCs were all wearing white cloaks and thick white armor. The crossed swords in their hands shone with a golden light. Knights Templar 35, Elite HP 150000 MP 150000 skills. Judgment of Light, Glorious Cross Slash, Holy Healing, Charge, glorious battle formation. Seeing this team of NPCs, Yang Na, who was not far away, broke out in cold sweat. Not only did this bunch of paladins have disgusting skills, but their HP and MP were also comparable to a normal boss. What was even more disgusting was that they had both magic and combat abilities. Wasn't this the treatment of a main character? Holy shit. Templar. The players at the Palace Route were all natives, so they naturally recognized this group of tigers and wolves. Other than the Pope's personal guards and city guards, the scariest NPCs in the Holy City were these bastards. The glory of God is not to be blasphemed. The leader of the Holy Knights unsheathed his cross, sword, kwacha, and pointed it towards the sky. With a loud roar, the whole team of Holy Knights flashed with a white light, and their aura became even more terrifying. Cleanse these heretics who trample on God's prestige. The paladins received the order, lined up, lowered their heads, and rushed over. Protect me. If I die, I'll get compensation. Eternal Dawn was shocked and immediately ran to the back of the team. The players of the Palace Route were all professional players, and they were all hired. Eternal Dawn was the boss, so when the boss spoke, they naturally had to put their lives on the line. After all, life wasn't worth much in the game, but compensation was real money. The hundreds of players at the Palace Route rushed out from all directions and blocked the paladins. There were only 12 paladins, but they were all regular fighters with both magic and combat abilities. They also had battle formation skills. These guys used charge, and like a steel knife stabbing into the Palace Route team, the Palace Route players didn't even have time to retaliate before the paladins activated cross slash, and a dozen players were instantly sliced into white light. The Palace Route players weren't weak either, and quickly formed a formation. The front row blocked the paladins, and the back row started to attack. This attack wasn't a big deal, but the players almost collapsed. System notification: Palace Route player fought against the Holy Dynasty. City Glory -100. Currently. The Holy Dynasty's current attitude towards the Palace Route players didn't matter to the Palace Route players anymore. In any case, they definitely wouldn't rest until one of them was dead. The system was too shameless, sending troops to attack others, and they didn't even have the right to retaliate. This was actually within reason. Even in the real world, the Palace Route players were a group of triads, and no one would care if they went to the Imperial City government to meditate. But if they threw firecrackers at the city government, they would still be caught, and even if they were caught, they would still fight with the police with machetes. Fuck, they definitely didn't want to live anymore. The paladins really weren't easy to deal with. Palace Route's wave of attacks caused them to be slightly stunned, and they casually threw a ball of white light at their own heads, and their HP rose up significantly. Filthy heretics received the wrath of God. The paladins formed teams of two, crossed their swords, and a huge pillar of light descended from the sky, landing at the back row of the Palace Route players. Actually, with a few hundred players surrounding a dozen level 35 elite monsters, they still had a high chance of winning. But the paladins were too imposing, and the players' glory plummeted by 300, and with the system's threat, how could they still have the heart to fight? For a moment, they were actually suppressed by the paladins. A few hundred players were actually pushed back by a mere dozen paladins. Seeing how fierce the paladins were, Eternal Silent Dawn was in extreme despair and turned to leave, but after a few steps, his head bumped into a tall figure. "Get out of the way. Don't block the way." Eternal Silent Dawn was used to being arrogant in Holy Light City, and seeing someone blocking his way, he didn't even think and pulled out his long sword to threaten that person. That person smiled and said lightly, "I heard that killing your people will give you glory." Eternal Silent Dawn heard this, and his face turned pale. Eternal Silent Dawn was the smartest of the 4 young masters of Holy Light. Unlike the other 3 who were muddle-headed, Eternal Silent Dawn lived quite clearly. He knew that although no one dared to provoke the 4 young masters of Holy Light in Holy Light City, that was mostly because there were no benefits to be gained from provoking them. But now that the Royal City Route had become the public enemy #1, there were only a few hundred honorable mobs that were worth killing. In this lawless world, It was extremely common for people to ambush others behind their backs. Thinking of this, Eternal Silent Dawn held his long sword in front of his chest and said coldly, "You dare to kill me? I'm—" Before Eternal Silent Dawn could finish his words, that person suddenly reached out and grabbed Eternal Silent Dawn's neck, then threw him to the ground and stomped him into white light. After doing all this, that person clapped his hands and said casually, "What's there to be afraid of? Only two glory is a little too little." Eternal Silent Dawn, who was at the resurrection point, didn't understand what had happened. He was a warrior with exquisite equipment, and he was instantly killed. Opening the battle log, it was written, "You were killed by player Iron Ox with glory, sinful -2, current 198. Chapter 120. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Sin value. Killing people was called PK value. Making contributions was called honor value. What was the meaning of sin value? Eternal Silence was a smart person. He paused for a moment and quickly understood. Literature building. Sin value should be the special honor given by the system when one's guild was announced as the public enemy of the city. 200 sin value, 2 points for each death, so he had to die 100 times to wash away the sin on his body. There was an old saying in Huaxia, "Nothing can be redeemed even if you die 100 times." It was used perfectly by the Western gods. Eternal Silence felt bitter in his heart. He clearly didn't do anything, but how did he become the public enemy of a whole city for no reason? Was the system god-blind? Royal City Root usually didn't have a good reputation in Holy Light City. Now that they were in trouble, there was no lack of people hitting them when they were down. Royal City Root players were like street rats. In the past, players avoided them, but now they were fighting to be the first. It was understandable how difficult it was to earn honor value. Killing a Royal City Root player was equivalent to clearing a dungeon. Not only could they earn honor value, but they could also take revenge for being suppressed, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Not long after, the resurrection point was filled with people from the Royal City Root. Eternal Silent Dawn didn't dare to go out because he saw you wanting of Red Flower headquarters strolling around with his men. The professional players of Royal City Root also didn't dare to go out because no one dared to act rashly without their boss's orders. Professional players were definitely skilled, but they didn't have any guts. They were just trying to make a living. How could they lower themselves to the level of these players who didn't care about their lives? Why aren't young Master Foam and young Master Ling online yet? Eternal Silence sent a message to young Master Hua. "I just went offline and called them. They're hitting on girls at the bar. They want you to revive now and fight the landlord." Young Master Hua replied, F***CK. Eternal Silence was depressed. These 2 shameless guys didn't care about their brothers. They wanted him to fight the landlord, who had the mood to play at this time. At this time, a Royal City Root player asked Eternal Silence with a self-made poker card, "Boss, do you want to play landlord?" Eternal Silence was speechless. Since the people of the Royal Root had offended the divine authority, the stubborn Holy Knights would not rest until they were dead. Therefore, they wanted to take turns with the people of the Royal Root 100 times. After the people at the base of the Royal City were killed, the paladins chased after them. Wang Yu also wanted to earn some honor points, but Yang Na stopped him. "Don't forget what we're here for." "That's true." Wang Yu nodded. Compared to a hidden quest, gaining honor points was a small matter. Losing honor points was something that could not be done. Making use of the chaos, the 2 of them snuck into the Saint Dynasty. After all, the Holy Court was a church that was a few times bigger than the priest monastery. It had a typical European architectural style and was majestic. The main hall was 17 to 18 meters high. The area was even more spacious than the warriors' training ground. The statue of the God of Light was directly opposite the entrance. It looked like a kind old man holding a book in his hand. The book shone brightly, making people want to worship it. It's hard to imagine that such a kind old man would have such a group of fanatical believers. Wang Yu had also seen how difficult it was to deal with the Holy Knights. Those who were not afraid of death were the most troublesome. Yang Na said, God's teachings are meant to lead people to do good. However, the believers used it as a reason to start a war. That's a tragedy. Wang Yu clicked his tongue in surprise. TSK, TSK. I didn't expect you to be so philosophical. I'm a professional. Yang Na chuckled and glanced at the Tai Chi symbol on Wang Yu's chest. However, Wang Yu's eyes suddenly turned cold. He said to Yang Na seriously, "Not good, there's killing intent." Killing intent? Yang Na quickly looked around. Killing intent was something that only a martial artist with a high cultivation could sense. Obviously, Yang Na's level was not high enough. Over there, Wang Yu pointed at the statue and said, "Who is it? Come out quickly." He, because God leads people to do good. God is justice. Everyone believes in justice. What's wrong with that? As soon as Wang Yu's voice fell, a priest in a robe walked out from behind the statue and asked Yang Na with a smile. This priest was in his 40s or 50s. He was very handsome with blonde hair and blue eyes. However, his gaze was too king annoying. He looked at Wang Yu and Yang Na with a condescending look. Wang Yu sneered. Leading people to do good is naturally not wrong. However, forcing people to believe in God is no different from the devil. Oh, the priest was slightly stunned. He turned his face and said to Wang Yu kindly, "Young man, I admire you very much. It's a pity that you are gradually falling into the devil's path. Are you willing to return to the embrace of my Lord?" This priest was just an NPC, but the expression on his face made Wang Yu exclaim. It was too realistic. Wang Yu had seen many NPCs, but those with such realistic expressions were few and far in between. Only NPCs with high AI and manual mode would have such expressions. Thinking of this, Wang Yu used Detect Spell. Heretic Inquisitor, Willie, level 35, Gold Boss, Elite, HP, 300,000 MP, 200,000 skills, Light Baptism, Divine Judgment, Angel's Descent. This is Willie? Wang Yu was shocked. This seemingly weak guy was actually a boss. Moreover, this old guy was no weaker than the Dragonblood Spear God. Yang Na nodded and said yes. This old guy's Divine Judgment can destroy weapons. You have to be careful. You're not helping me? Yang Na spread her hands and said, "My mission is to steal the holy magic stone. You should do the technical work like killing the boss. You're so disloyal. Nonsense. You abandoned me and ran away just now. I don't see how loyal you are." Women were really petty. She was still calculative with Wang Yu over this. "How about it, my child? Have you thought it through? You have great power. As long as you are willing, the embrace of God will always be open for you. God's power is so great." Willie ignored the conversation between the two and guided Wang Yu with a kind expression. System notification. Do you want to accept God's Test quest? God's Test. Rank A. Retrieve the lost Holy Magic Stone 0 to 1. Reward. Hidden class, Templar. Hint. Every Templar has a firm belief. Once this quest is accepted, Heart of a Warrior quest will be automatically canceled. Wang Yu did not expect a boss to give him such a generous reward. A hidden class was indeed tempting. The quest was simple too. All he had to do was retrieve the Holy Magic Stone from Yang Na. Yang Na was strong, but in Wang Yu's eyes, she was only slightly stronger than an average player. Moreover, God's Test and Night Soul were both rank A quests. It was much easier than the deceptive Heart of a Warrior quest. However, Wang Yu was not tempted at all. The thought of him becoming a fanatical believer like the Templar Knights made Wang Yu unhappy, especially when he had to steal Yang Na's things. Wang Yu could not avoid her at all. It would be terrible if he stole her things. Moreover, Wang Yu felt that the martial arts class was more suitable for him. Forget it. Compared to God, I believe in my fists more. Wang Yu casually chose reject. Before the last descent of darkness, there was an unknown grandmaster of combat who said that. Are you really not going to consider it? Willie asked with a pitiful expression. Wang Yu moved his right leg forward and lowered his center of gravity. He raised his fists and said, "Cut the crap. I hate that expression of yours. P.S. Hello everyone. Requesting recommendation tickets, tips, collections, all kinds of requests. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.